Welcome everyone to Legion Gaming. I'm your host Donnie, and as always, I'm joined by co-host Ducey.
Hello, everybody.
Ducey, how are you this fine afternoon?
I am so glad to finally be off. I had 6 days of work.
Oh yeah.
Now it's just a fun recording session. Like
5
always.
days of work is awful to begin with.
Yeah.
6 is even worse.
Yep.
Yeah. But we're here with episode 67, another milestone. We've done quite a lot of episodes, which is every time we start doing a new one, I'm like, holy crap, we've done a lot. But today is all about reboots, remasters, and remakes, because these are immensely popular now. They've been popular for a while.
That's kind of all that's coming out.
That's all that's coming out, and it's all we end up playing. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I really enjoy, again, from the first time we played it to when it's been re-released perhaps 6 times, depending on the game.
It's usually the thing we're most excited for, too, is like, you know, there's a lot of announcements for new games and new IP, and we're like, oh, okay, but there's an air of skepticism, and whereas if it's something we know, we're like, well, it could only be better.
It's really what the case is, and also, you know, what we discover more on is like a lot of these are driven by nostalgia, like that sort of nostalgia hook.
Yep.
So it's also great to revisit a game that you loved back then, and it's all, you know, new and shiny now. But we have a pretty big list, so we're only going to get through like, you know, so much. But I think we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about because there's a lot of discussion what reboots, remasters, remakes are, so we'll get in a little bit about that in a bit. But I think it'll be a really fun episode like usual because there's a lot of good stuff on this list. And I don't think we really have anything bad because really the bad stuff we haven't played too much of, and maybe the worst of these is really just like fine.
Well, like what I didn't put on the list, but could immediately be called bad, is that Grand Theft Auto Trilogy remaster.
Oh yeah, I guess you could say that's a good point. We could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
That's a fun one too. Yeah, but I guess like the ones we're talking about are more stuff we're fond of, or you know, some things that we wish we could re-experience, and they made that happen.
I don't think there's ever really a bad one. If anything, it's more of a meh.
Yeah, it's almost like, well, I'd rather just play the original.
Yeah.
You know, which, you know, might be more difficult depending on the system and whatnot. Yeah. But Ducey, what have you been playing recently?
Nothing like a remake or anything like that. No, I've had 2 really big games that I've sunk a lot of time into recently, and then a couple others that I've sort of just started and gotten a very brief taste of. The 2 big ones are XCOM: Enemy Unknown, which is really old.
Yeah, it's 2013, and ironically also sort of a reboots of the original series. So
that's
fun.
right.
Yeah, I don't think we put that on our list. I think I meant to, and we didn't. So there you go, right off the bat.
To me, though, I didn't even realize that there were games before that one. And so when I started playing this way back then, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I was kind of new to the whole tactics type of play style that it was. And I really enjoyed the base building in between missions. And I would always like pick this up, play it a little bit, put it down. It never like got me stuck or stumped me. But for some reason, I would just get distracted and go to something else. Whereas this time, I really sat down and played through it, and I'm the farthest I've ever been. There's this giant spaceship that just appeared on our radars, and I had to make like this special room in the base just to like transport ourselves up to it. The problem is now like the difficulty is ramped up, and I've been sailing through most of the time, and I've kept a lot of the same people from early on, so they're all really high ranks and everything. But with this permadeath stuff, I am very scared to go into this new one that where like all of a sudden the BS of the accuracy and the chance to hits really
the probability, which is this game is notorious for. There's a bunch of memes ever since it came out about how it's like you might have 99% probability and still miss, even if you're directly in front of them.
Point blank, as close as we are right now at this table, and I'm gonna miss you somehow, and that really comes to light in this mission that I'm on, and I'm like, I started it, and I played for about a half an hour or 45 minutes because I was just going step by step, methodically. And then I started losing because I was missing shots, and the enemies were immediately hitting me. And I'm like, nope, I just quit out. I didn't even save it or anything. I was like, no, screw this. And unfortunately, I haven't been back to it since because I'm just like afraid to go into there and know that I'm going to lose like all of my top people.
Yeah, that's what's hard is I really enjoy the XCOM games, but I'm really terrible at them. Like our friend Randy is really good with them. Like he puts, I think in XCOM 2, he probably put like 100 something hours into it. He's really good at them I guess just because he played them when he was a kid or something. But I always hit that wall, and I hit the wall before you did.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like I really like the tension and the anxiety it gives you of making sure that all of your crew members are safe. But then it really sucks when you're at the mercy of probability when it should not be as frequent as it is. Because like you said, like there's times where it's like even if it's 75% or probability or 80, it feels like it misses more than it hits at that time. It's almost like, is this an 80% chance to miss?
Like, it's taken all these years, but I finally really accepted the permadeath stuff. And like, I did lose one of my characters that was there from the very first mission. And he was a pretty good rank. He had a lot of kills, a lot of mission time. And I was like, you know what? That sucks, but we'll mourn and we'll move on. But that was like a mistake that I had made. And now these other ones, I'm like, no, the stupid probability thing is affecting me. And that I do not accept.
I think that's what sucks about it. It's like it's different when if you're playing another game, you're usually losing because of yourself, whether it's because you got overwhelmed, whatever. And this is like like I said, you're at the mercy of probability, and it seems like it shouldn't be that way when you have certain chances. But that's part of the reason why I'm so terrible at these games, especially XCOM. It sucks because I love the genre so much, but I'm so awful at them. Sometimes I have to spend a lot of time to get over the learning curve.
Yeah,
and once I do, I love it. But XCOM's always been the one where it's like I just need to invest more time to understand it better because I love the theme. Like it's such a cool game.
Yeah. And I was looking forward to playing XCOM 2 after it, but I got to finish this first one. And I don't know when I'll get back to it because a lot of good things came out and are coming out recently. And then, despite having all these new things coming out, I went back to a game that's 2 years old and I started playing Forza Motorsport again and really getting further into that, probably further than I've gotten in any other previous like big racing game, any other previous Forza or Gran Turismo. I even got, like I told you the other night, a diamond achievement for just finishing 2 tours, which is like 4 or 5 of those like individual rounds that have multiple rounds in them. And apparently not a whole lot of people even go that far in these games. My driver ranking, I finally surpassed our buddy Mike, because he was like the highest ranked out of all of our friends on the friends
I didn't know
list.
you'd played it that much.
That's
funny.
He was playing it a ton when it first came out, and I finally passed that. It all came to be because we just recently had our car week on the peninsula, and as much as I hate the traffic that it brings and the extra work, I do enjoy looking at those cars. And I was like, you know what, Forza looks really good, and I enjoy playing as those cars as well. So I kind of surprised myself that I've stuck with it this long. And unfortunately, Microsoft being crappy, they're shutting it down, and they're bringing out all of the timed events that would come and go throughout the run of the game. Now they're just bringing them out permanently so you can play them at any time.
Oh, I didn't know they're actually doing that because I had read that, because to my understanding, they laid off quite a few people from Turn 10.
Yeah.
And from what I've read, and I don't know how recent this is, but they said that they're going to continue to support Horizon 5 and Motorsport, which, that could mean a lot of things. Support, like it could be very ambiguous. It could be like, once a month we're updating things. It could be once every 6 months.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that they had just brought all the content, because that's what some games do when they're sort of entering their end of life stage, so to speak, where it's like, well, this thing is shutting down, so here's all the stuff we've done over the last 2 years, so you can freely play it, which is great, but it also sucks because this may be the last Forza Motorsport we'll ever get.
Yeah, that is the most terrible thing, because they also said, like, in the future there could be a Horizon 6, or they're just going to focus more on Horizon. And
I think that's their bread and butter because of how well it sold.
Yeah.
And, obviously these are both on Game Pass, but like if Forza Horizon 5 is like one of the best selling PS5 games right now. So I think that's even more reason for them to invest in Horizon. I don't even know if Motorsport will ever get to another system. Like I know it's on PC and Xbox right now, but I suspect that won't get ported either. They're probably just going to put everything in their Horizon basket.
And I didn't really notice it when it first came out, but I can see why they're focusing more on Horizon, because it's got the dumb, live service type of aspect to it.
Well, it's also more arcadey too.
Yeah.
That's really the thing, is that's much more accessible for most people, where Motorsport's very sim heavy, even though it's like, it might have some arcadey elements, but it's really sim, right? It's more simulation.
And like we had talked about previously, like Forza 6 and 7 were starting to really get into that live servicey type of thing.
Yeah, you told me that they had like roulette wheels or something like that, or there was something with, was it 6, I think it was, where they eventually removed all the sort of gambling crap.
Yeah.
Right?
But like 6 was the start of it, and 7 got so heavy into it that people were talking negatively about it.
Okay,
and I didn't even play
thought.
7 because of that. And I don't know how much of that they reversed. But with Motorsport, they totally took all of that out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
everything you do is in game, which was perfectly fine. But obviously, they're like, well, we're not making money off that because we only have some DLC packs. But look at Horizon, we're totally making money hand over fist on that one.
Yeah, because again, like I bought Horizon 5 on PS5, and I saw that I didn't even notice that they had that Universal Car Pack, which is awesome. It has the Jurassic Park Jeep, it has the DeLorean, it has Kit from Knight Rider, and I forgot the fourth one. But I was like, holy crap, like this is awesome. I know this existed, but it's like I said, it really feels like they've put more support towards Horizon, probably because it's making them more money. There's more content for it, and who knows what's left of the team at these developers,
Yeah.
So it sucks because you and I were basically at the beginning of Forza when it first came out on Xbox, and that was always like the closest thing we could get to something beating Gran Turismo or being as good as Gran Turismo. And it sucks that this is kind of where it ends up now. It's like, what's it been, like 20 something years later, and Microsoft's like, all right, we're kind of done with it. We're now about Activision, Blizzard, and whatever else. So it sucks.
Yeah, a lot of it's going by the wayside. We talked about Project Gotham in in our racing episode, and like that was another Microsoft thing. And I don't know what Microsoft is really focusing on when it comes to racing, because I believe I heard recently Need for Speed was also shutting down.
That might get shut down. That's there's rumors that it might be sort of, they won't make a new one.
Yeah,
I guess the last one probably didn't sell well, which sucks because that one's great. Unbound, I think it was called.
Yeah.
That was a really fun one. So I don't know. The industry's in a rough spot as always. Like we always talk about, it seems like every episode.
Yeah.
And some are making more bonehead decisions than others. Like Microsoft, I think, is king of bonehead decisions. Maybe right under Embracer. I think Embracer's the worst because all they do is buy up stews and shut them down. Whereas Microsoft's like, we'll buy them, add some value to whatever services we have, then shut everything down. So it sucks. It just really sucks for everyone at the end of the day.
And all we have left is now the announcements of like Battlefield 6 and Black Ops 7.
And Black Ops 7, yeah. And that's always at the forefront of these things.
Yeah.
Is that what you've been playing? All you've been diving into, Deucey?
Those were the big dives, and then I briefly started the Alters, which you talked about a while
ago, yeah.
From the brief moment I played, it was really fun, but then Forza took my attention away from it. And then just last night I started, because it was on Game Pass, Rogue Prince of Persia.
Oh, you did start with that one. Yeah, this is by the Dead Cells developers, so I think it's a bit of a roguelite or something. But I know this was in early access for a while because I had my eye on it, and I didn't know how it was. I just kind of knew it existed, and then all of a sudden it came out on PS Plus and Game Pass out of nowhere.
I liked it so far, but I did the mistake that I usually do where I played it late, so I was dozing off.
Oh no!
Even in an action-heavy game, I was like finding myself dozing off, and I was like, I'm gonna have to restart this in the morning or when I'm bright and fresh, because I have no idea what it taught me in the early levels.
And you're really just, your reaction time's low at that point. You're probably dying more often than you normally would.
I know I officially died once, and I'm restarting back at this like base camp, and I was like, oh, this must be the rogue-like aspect of it.
That's from assuming, because it's Dead Cells, which, that's a fantastic game too, but it does that same exact rogue-like gimmick where, you get to a certain point, you die, you have persistent upgrades, but ultimately it's like, you die over and over, which I kind of feel like it's weird. Like, they call them roguelites, and they really are, but it almost feels like a game from the olden days, which is weird to say, where it's like, the idea is like you get to a certain level, die, and you probably would have to restart the whole level or whole game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's sort of an evolution of that, which that's how I have to frame myself when I play these games so I don't get frustrated. It's like, yeah, that sucks dying over and over, but it's also kind of what you did with old games anyway.
The problem is with the old games, they at least kept all of the enemies and the levels the same, whereas these roguelikes
that's also true.
Will then randomize everything.
That's
so
right.
When you think you're about to learn a pattern, something new comes at you.
And you're like, this path was not here before.
Yeah.
For what I've been playing, so I finally beat Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. It turns out, like, when you and I last spoke, or on the podcast, I should say, I was actually like pretty close to the end. I thought I had a lot more to go. So I finished it up. I absolutely love that game. I'm actually playing through some of it more now again to collect some of the there's secret levels you can unlock, which are really, really hard. Like, they're pretty crazy platforming challenges. So I really, really love this game. I restarted a game that I've been just dying to finish, and I restart like, I don't know, 3 times now, and that's Alien Isolation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so this came out 10 years ago. It's basically a stealth game. It has just incredible atmosphere, incredible graphics. Like, I'm playing on PC, but it's also enhanced on Series X, actually. Like, it runs at 60 frames a second, I think, on there. And I really enjoy this game, but there's something I couldn't shake from it that really bugged the shit out of me, and a lot of it was because there's times in this game where it felt like trial and error. It wasn't so much that I had the agency to get through an area undetected how I want, but there's certain things I had to figure out on how the game wanted me to progress. So like in mission 3, which is very early, I think this game is pretty lengthy, but there's a section where you walk up and you're instantly seen by humans, and you're defenseless because you play as Ripley's daughter. You're on the Sevastopol, this sort of space station where you're trying to find her flight recorder, figure out what happened to your mom. So you're basically defenseless, and there's a point where you go up these stairs and you're instantly spotted. I'm like, how? Like, no one should have a line of sight. It's pitch black. I can't even see who's looking at me. So they chase you because otherwise you get killed. And then I eventually found out that it's not so much as you sulking around that area, is you have to sprint to grab this one item and get out of there. And I was like, well, that's stupid, because you just told me how I'm supposed to stealthily walk through things and crouch and not make noise, which I'm doing, but I'm getting spotted no matter what. So that's the part I'm struggling with, because once you get over that, it's a really awesome game, but it sucks. There's certain sections that feel like where you don't totally have freedom on how you want to approach a certain room or a certain objective. It's like you're still sort of confined by how the game wants you to approach things.
It sounds like that the game is trying to tell a story through the gameplay more than cutscenes, like we've talked about with Metroid and stuff like that. The problem is they don't tell you that they're going to do that.
And that's exactly my issue with it, where there's no cues for me to say like, okay, I should just run in there, because again, like the first 2 missions is all about like going through vents, stealthing around, right? Like just stay out of view. But this section was like, I've tried this like 5 times. What am I missing? So I looked up a video and they just ran through. I was like, this is stupid. Like,
I think that is exactly the part I got stuck on. And I didn't even get spotted. I just heard the humans talking, and I was like, oh crap. I hid in a locker, and I was trying to figure out how I could get through the room. I didn't even try once to go in there, so I didn't realize that you're forced to run and be spotted.
And that's the only way I could solve it. And it sucks, because to me there is a learning curve. And I just Googled, I was curious, it's like, do other people feel this way? Does it feel like it's trial and error? And there were a few threads I saw, and of course there's people saying, no, you just suck. I'm like, no, I don't. I really think that this game is great. I just think that there's certain sections where it's like you're forced to complete a certain section the way the game wants you to, not the way you want to, which sucks, because everything else is about how you approach things. And there's certain things, like you said, where they don't tell you like, well, you're supposed to go through it this way just to get through.
Yeah, it's a weird way of doing it, because like if you think about games like the more recent Tomb Raiders and Uncharted's, you go into the game knowing that it's going to be this cinematic experience, plus you have agency to do a lot of different paths and different movement. Like I said, this game doesn't tell you that. It doesn't tell you that it's going to be cinematic in some parts.
Yeah, so and that's really my only complaint so far. It's just, it's like I have it on medium, so it's not even like it's that difficult. There's even like 2 more difficulties, which I know people get through. But it's just, for me, it's just that learning curve I have to approach, right? That's all it is, because I really do enjoy the game otherwise. But it's just when I hit stuff like that, I'm like, this doesn't feel right to me.
Also, in my mind, like going into this game, I expect to run from aliens. Because,
absolutely.
Because they're aliens. They're freaking scary and bigger than humans. If there's another human in there, I want to have the agency to whack them with a crowbar or
at
something.
least like if I'm crouching behind something where it's pitch black, like a shadow, there's no reason they should be able to call me out, even if especially if they're looking the opposite way. Like that's the whole point. Like I waited till someone was looking the opposite way.
Yeah.
And somehow they're like, hey, she's over there. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Like, did she fart on the way up? I don't understand here.
Do you have super hearing? What is this?
So that's really my only complaint so far. I hope to do finish it, because I do really love it. Because like I said, like the atmosphere, like they absolutely nailed Alien. Plus, I've been watching Alien Earth, so that's also what got me the itch to play this game again too.
That makes sense, yeah.
So I'm not saying it's like a bad game right now. It's just my initial complaint with the first like 3rd mission is really what it is.
I almost got inspired to play that again, because we recently saw that game coverage of the Jurassic Park game that's coming out.
Oh, that looks really cool. Jurassic Park Survivor, I think it's called.
Yeah, and that looks like Alien Isolation, but in the Jurassic Park universe with dinosaurs.
So I'm really curious to play that one too, because it's Jurassic Park, not World, which already entices me.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to play that one. There's also that Terminator Survivors game that's coming out someday. I don't know when that's coming out, sometime this year or next year. And then the other game I'll talk about, I've been getting into because it's on PS Plus. I played a little bit before, but I put, I don't know, like 6 or 7 hours into it, is Lies of P. This is a Dark Souls Pinocchio, which is the weirdest combination, but it's weird. It's the theme of Pinocchio, where you're playing as a puppet made by Geppetto, and the idea in this world is that they found this substance that sort of grows within the planet called ergo, and it's like this substance that powers the puppets. And for some reason, the puppets have now revolted, so they just start killing people, maiming people.
Nice.
It's a wildly dark Pinocchio. It's really cool. There are multiple difficulties. I'm playing on normal, which is sort of like this Souls-like thing. I say this is actually more of a fair Souls-like because you do have parries and whatnot, but not everything can kill you instantly, which is good. And I know
what a novel concept.
I know, yeah, it's really fantastic, right? Yeah, and I know there's a couple difficulties that also make it easier too. Like there's a novice and very easy or something like that. So I was like, I'm prepared to go down there if I have to. I've been kind of going along, and it's like, I don't know, like the world is really interesting. Like there's just puppets just like hanging from the like the rafters, and they'll pop down and all of a sudden just start trying to attack you. It's got just a really gorgeous aesthetic, and I can see why people love this game because it's just really well produced and well made. I'd be curious if you tried it. I don't know if you will, but I think if anything, you should check out some videos because the theme is cool enough to where it might entice you, but at the same time, the gameplay might not.
Well, I've also heard that it's not by the same people as the Souls games, but it's like the best knockoff that's ever been
it's
done
basically
so far.
Yeah, like this definitely takes cues from Bloodborne. You can absolutely tell it just in sort of like the theme and mood of it.
Yeah,
and it works so well because it's like, you know, Pinocchio, Pinocchio is like this Disney cheery, whimsical kind of character, and in here it's just a dark world because the puppets have revolted and they're killing people. Like everyone's quarantined in their homes because there's puppets running loose, you know. It's really wild. And you even fight like the donkey guy because he's like these crazed human who's like also like fighting against puppets like a vigilante. It's freaking wild. It's really cool, though. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Yeah,
it's a good time.
For some reason, it instantly reminded me of Detroit Become Human, but like puppets instead of androids.
Yeah, that's not too far off. Yeah, it's like they're standing against themselves. Yeah, it reminded me of like the Matrix a bit, or like the Animatrix, like, you know, when the robots are serving humans and then they revolt for one reason or another. It's really crazy. It's a cool theme. All right, Juicy. Well, I guess now we should get into some reboots, remasters, and remakes. All right, you see, we are here. We're at episode 67. Like we mentioned, we're talking reboots, remakes, and remasters. I keep changing the order because they're all the same.
Oh my.
Oh my. I should have add an oh my on there.
Yeah. This is a fitting episode. We didn't even totally realize it, but at time of release, a big remake is not remake, remaster. Yeah, remaster.
It's a remake. It's a remake.
No, it's a remaster because they're using everything exactly from the original, but just with better graphics and everything, right?
Well, it's weird. So, because technically it's a remake, and this is where we get to define all these things.
No. So I can't call it a remake.
So what Ducey is saying is that as of this release of this recording, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater has released.
Yeah,
and that one is being considered a remake because while it's using some of the audio assets, it's rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5, so it's a totally different engine from before. That's really where it kind of falls under the remake.
But they said everything in the levels is exactly the same, and like I said, the voice acting and everything, all the story is exactly the same.
Yeah, but it's like this isn't using the source code of the original, so that's the thing. That's why this is technically a remake, because they've rebuilt the game. It's a remade game, which is interesting. But they're using some of the audio files. I think to re-record the Snake Eater theme, to my understanding.
Yeah.
So it's like, in a lot of respects, you might consider this a remaster, but this is actually a remake for Metal Gear Solid Delta.
Yeah. No, it's not.
So to give context to all three of these things, we're going to define some of these things here. So we have a couple of ideas here. So there's one that's a port, which is sometimes called a conversion. This is like the most common way games are sort of transferred to another console. So an example would be like the arcade ports of Mortal Kombat on Super Nintendo and Genesis. Those are really just translations of a game that already exists, and in this case, they're being ported down to smaller hardware, which is Super Nintendo and Genesis, because those obviously don't have the horsepower of an arcade.
Yeah.
So those were more common, like when we were younger, because that was just the thing. It's like we might see a game in the arcades, and someday we'd hope there'd be home ports. Hopefully, it wouldn't be awful, because a lot of them were hit or miss. Like the Captain America on Super Nintendo's not so hot, but it's a little bit better on Genesis, right?
It's crazy to think about the arcade games that were ported, like using this term specifically, to something like the NES.
Yeah.
When you're like, wow, that is really pared down to
Well, and you could see
fit.
some wild differences, too, because there's definitely compromises depending on the hardware. Like, for instance, Strider on the arcade versus Strider on the Nintendo.
Yeah.
Same game technically, but two totally different gameplay feels, graphics, everything. It feels like a totally different game.
The original Ninja Gaiden for arcade compared to the one on NES, and now everybody loves the NES one, and they look at the arcade one like, oh, that was an arcade
exactly
game.
Right. So that was like what was most common when we were younger, because that was just the case. It's like you wanted the arcade experience at home. More often now we would get some sort of ported version of it. There's times like, some games might get ported from one console to another, like, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver got ports on the Dreamcast. Or, one of the more infamous ports we love to talk about is the Resident Evil 2 port on Nintendo 64, where it's the same game as PS1, but they compress the audio and the FMV cutscenes, and they clean up the graphics because, the N64 is naturally more powerful. And that's sort of a port. It's almost like an enhanced port, which is weird. Like, it's a port, but it's a little bit more enhanced because they had some extras on there.
A miracle port, because you fit the two discs down onto one cartridge.
Yeah, it's a wild port, and it's one of my favorites, and I think it's like you said, it's a miracle port by far.
Yeah.
Remasters. So these usually rely on existing assets, and it kind of modernizes the game for current consoles or hardware. They might do some control tweaks. They might have some quality of life changes, like to streamline certain things that might have been annoying, like for instance, like Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy remasters, early ones. They added what was it, 4 times XP or something like that?
Yeah, they added the XP boost, the coin,
and you could speed up the game, right?
They added the switch where you don't get the random encounters, or you do, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are sort of examples of remasters. Like they took an existing game, existing source code, and they really just ported it to modern hardware and probably tweaked a lot of things, or they might have upscaled the graphics, like Last of Us Remastered has been remastered like 3 times now, but from PS3 to PS4, it was basically the same game as PS3, but now it's using the PS4 power, and like everything looks considerably better, which it was already a gorgeous game to begin with. Now it looks even better. So that's probably the more common one we see is remasters, because usually they take something existing. It's usually cheaper to do. They'll put it in a new engine or something, like Dead Rising is an example.
I'd say it's kind of the modern port where since we don't have the console wars too much, a lot of games come out for both anyway. What it is like taking an old game and bringing it to the next system just for ease of play and stuff. But while we're at it, we might as well polish it up a little.
Exactly, yeah. So these are by far the most common, and it's funny because you and I grew up. It's fun for us. For one of the earliest games we'll talk about, Super Mario All-Stars. But for us, that was like the earliest sort of remaster, remake, what do you want to call that, right? Yeah. And we're used to so many remasters now. It's like we're rediscovering all the games we grew up with, and we're like biting into every single one of these things. Like, yeah, it's gonna be great to play that again.
Yeah.
Then there's remakes. This is, I don't know. To me, I feel like the most infamous remake, at least from my perspective, is the Resident Evil remake.
Yeah.
Where they took a game that was on older hardware, in this case the PS1, and they used all the power of the GameCube to make the game that they thought, or the game that they, I guess, technically would have wanted to have made on PS1. And this is sort of rebuilt from the ground up. It's usually uses a brand new engine, brand new assets. It might use some things like, like I think even all the voices were re-recorded in the Resident Evil game, right?
Yeah, because I think there's some actual different voice actors.
I think so, yeah. And they might use some of the same audio for other things too. But that's sort of like that's like the prime example for me as far as remakes. That's sort of like the early benchmark for remakes as far as like how to take an existing game and just make it better in just basically every possible way. And then there's reboots, which are totally different, but they kind of fall in the remake category in some instances, because this is when a series or brand kind of gets stale from one reason or another, or they basically do sort of like a fresh take on these things. Like Terminator's a great example, where they had like, I don't know, 5 or 6 games, and they kind of ended with, I think Angel of Darkness was one of the last bad ones. Yeah. And then from there, it was like they remastered like the Terminator 10th Anniversary Edition, and then they got that formal reboot, I think it was 2012, I want to say? 2013, somewhere around there. And that basically turned Tomb Raider up on its head. And that's also the case with like God of War. I would also consider Twist Metal Black a bit of a reboot, because
Ninja Gaiden.
2004 is a reboot. So these are games that are from established franchises, and they might be just totally different. Like God of War 2018 is a vastly different game than God of War 2005. Like just from gameplay alone and just visuals, you could totally tell they're like, one's a more arcade experience, and this is more of like a narrative experience with like, really heavy combat. So that's sort of the initial guardrails we have, or definitions, I should say, for all of these terms. To me, like they're all very loose, because to me, it's like a marketing term in some respects. Like, I think the biggest difference is really between remaster and remake, because remakes are usually built from the ground up in one way or another. But it's like now they have like definitive edition, like there's Dead Rising, like I think it's called Remaster or something like that. But it's some people have called like definitive or something like that. There's just a lot of terms that kind of get blurry, and then I think some games are like, like for instance, Metroid Prime Remastered. I'd almost consider that a remake. It looks like a remake, but it's not a remake. So there's a lot of fun with this list because we pulled a lot of games that we want to talk about that we love for one reason or another, and they all fall into one of these categories. So one of the earliest conversions that at least I was looking up and found out is that it was Adventure on 2600. I never played this game. I know it's notable because it had one of the earliest Easter eggs in the game, or like secrets, but it was actually sort of a remake of a 1970s text adventure game called Colossal Cave Adventure, which I didn't even know.
I've heard that title before.
It does sound familiar, right? And then I was looking at what might be considered like the earliest remake, and it seems that some people might consider Sega's Pitfall 2 Lost Caverns for the Sega SG-1000, which that was like before the Master System, if I recall, right?
Yeah.
And that took Pitfall 1 and 2 from the 2600, which I guess it took a lot of the levels and all the concepts from there, but also like, upgrade the graphics, because I'm sure the difference between SG-1000 and 2600 is pretty reasonable leap, right? And I guess they had other gameplay elements. So that's kind of like the earliest conversions that I'd found. But I guess we could kick off our list now, Dusey, because for us, I feel like, I'll let you start with the first list, our first game, because I feel like we're kind of on the same page with the first one.
Yeah, the first couple, actually, because the first one I really remember, and I didn't even know there was a name for it back then. I was just like, this is cool. It's going to be on Super Nintendo now. It's the Super Mario All-Stars collection. And yeah, this is what I thought all games going forward should be doing, is like take a Nintendo game, which was really fun, like barely anything wrong with these Mario games. They were all top sellers and fun to play. And then just put on the new 16-bit graphics that we wanted to see, because when Super Mario World came out, we were like, "Oh wow, should we even go back to Nintendo? Look at what the future holds." And then they brought out the original like Mario that we all know and love with the music and the first Goomba that crawls at you, but now it's in this crazy new 16-bit graphics.
Yeah, very gorgeous, very vibrant. There's a lot more colors on the screen. It looks like Mario World, but it's the old game that we knew and loved.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
And now all three, including, well, now four, because the Lost Levels was the original Japanese Mario 2. Now all of these look cohesive. They look like the same series, but, still with all the different gameplay and everything.
Yeah, I remember when this came out, because this came out in 93, and I remember renting this, and I was pretty blown away, I'm pretty sure, because like I had grown up playing Mario 1, I played a lot of Mario 3. I don't think I played too much because not many of my friends owned it, because, it's that weird Mario game that people didn't really like back then and grew to love. I always loved it because of All-Stars.
So did we. Like, we had it from one of the first days it came out.
Yeah, but this is where I was like, holy crap, like this looks amazing, because again, like you said, we played Mario World, and this is the first instance where we got to play those original games on what we knew, now is like the Super Nintendo new hardware and whatnot. And also beyond that, Lost Levels I thought was like a cool bonus when I was a kid. And then we would later learn that that's actually Mario Brothers 2 from the Famicom.
Yeah.
So there was a whole instance of the reason we got Mario Brothers 2 is because I guess Japan thought that actual Mario Brothers 2 was too difficult for US children. So they're like,
I think there was somebody at Nintendo of America that thought
maybe
it was too
maybe
difficult.
it was Nintendo of America. Yeah. So we didn't get that one for years. So this is like, as a kid, I didn't know this. I don't know how many people did know that Lost Levels or Mario Brothers 2. I just thought it was like extra Mario Brothers levels, But yeah, and then you play Mario Brothers 3, which is by far my favorites at the time. And it was also just like a totally new presentation. It played really well. And it was just like the first instance of a game where I was like, oh, we need more of these things. And I don't know how many had come out after that. But that game was like a real big milestone. Because also beyond that, it was 4 games on there for, where it was $60, $70 at the time.
Yeah, 3 games we knew, and then this one bonus game that you couldn't play anywhere else. And I'm pretty sure it was like my 3rd or 4th ever Super Nintendo game. It was.
It had to be an early one, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even rent it. I don't think I was renting at the time. I was just knew immediately, and I think my dad wanted it too because he was a big fan of all the Nintendo Marios, but now he could play it on the Super Nintendo if he wanted, which I don't know if he ever really did. I think he still kept plugging in the old Nintendo and playing those.
It's the guy with the pure experience.
Yeah.
Would you consider this a remaster or a remake, Tusi? Because technically, so I don't know how the source code is, right? I don't know if it's something that they had to rebuild, But would you consider this a remaster or a remake?
I consider it a remaster.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I'd fall too, because I don't know, again, like because there's so many blurred lines between remaster and remake, especially at this point in time, that I don't know if you consider remake because it does look like a brand new game. Like it looks nothing like an 8-bit Mario. It looks like a fully 16-bit game. Like if you didn't know the NX ones existed, you could think these are brand new games on the Super Nintendo.
The only thing that the reason I consider it a remaster is because you could put the new game over the old one and everything is exactly the same in every level. Like the blocks are all the same, the steps, the pitfalls, the bosses, everything was exactly the same. It just got a fresh coat of paint. If they had the option, this could have been one of those games where you push select and then the old graphics change onto the new.
Yeah, if that was even possible back then.
Yeah,
because that's also what Halo had, which I thought was really cool. Halo Remaster, whatever it's called.
Oh yeah,
that was like one of the coolest gimmicks ever. Was the fact you just tap a button and you go to Xbox graphics to, I think it was 360, right, when it was first remade or something like that.
Yeah,
which pretty cool. Never had been done before that, and that was a really great gimmick to see really the big difference between the graphic engines.
Yeah.
The next scene we'll talk about, I think we're on cue for this one here. It's Star Fox 64, which you pointed out really interestingly. This is weird because we have Star Fox Super Nintendo. There's sort of a remake on Nintendo 64, and there's a remake of the remake on the 3DS.
Yeah, I consider this a remake and then a remaster on the 3DS.
A remastered remake.
Yeah.
Which Resident Evil also has.
Yeah. Yeah, this is another fun one. For the longest time, I didn't even know it was a remake. Like, I figured it was kind of a continuation of the Super Nintendo. But not so. Like, the story is actually just added on to. You go to a lot of the same planets, and you follow the same sort of path from Corneria to Venom. And then now they just added all the voice acting and the backstory with Fox's dad and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, this I definitely consider a remake, maybe even a reboot, even though there was only like it was a one generation difference. But
well, I would say it's a remake,
yeah,
because it does have its roots in the original game. It's just, again, like when I was a kid, we talked about this on I think was this the Star Fox episode? I forgot which episode it was. But it's like I didn't fully recognize it was the first game.
Yeah.
I thought it felt like a brand new game to me because the levels were so drastically different. You have the R tank, you have multiplayer, you have all these different factors, and it's like, oh no, you go back to Star Fox on Super Nintendo, and like, the graphics are obviously different.
Yeah.
But as far as like the story beats and levels, it's all the same. And then this is just way more blown out because they took advantage of the N64. Like you have the submarine, you have like the free range, all range mode. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one, we've talked about before on our N64 episode, but this is like one of my favorite games ever. And it's one of my favorite remakes ever without me knowing it was a remake for a long time. And the 3DS one's actually really good too. I only played that within the last year because you told me how good it was. I finally got a copy and it's great.
Yeah.
It's more of the N64 one. It looks better. It controls about the same. And I know there's some 3DS enhancements. I can't fully remember what they are. I think it's like some of your controls can be mapped there, so you can do like the what do you call it, the 180 quicker, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there's like on the touchpad.
Little shortcuts.
Yep.
I think. But it's an excellent remake of a remaster, or it's actually a remaster of a remake.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm getting them mixed up now.
They smoothed out a lot of the graphics and everything, so it doesn't have that N64 blockiness. But they keep a lot of the same. I think they keep the same voice acting and everything too. And it's just, and it's all portable. That was my big thing, was like before we ever thought the Switch was possible, we were like, oh, now we get N64 games on the go.
Yeah, one of your most favorite N64 games on the go. The only detriment is the size of the 3DS, but that's a whole other thing.
That's true. I had an original DS or
This
3DS.
is even worse.
So my hand was cramping doing barrel rolls.
I have the 3DS XL, and my hands are pretty big, and like the buttons are so awkwardly spaced on that my hands don't get sore; they just get annoyed.
Yeah,
after a while, it's like I really want to play more of this, but they're really making it literally painful in some instances.
Yep.
It's really annoying. I wish there was like a double XL or something stupid.
Especially when you're in the submarine and that entire level is nothing but a barrel roll.
Oh yeah, because you're spinning to deflect everything.
Yeah, and then just constantly firing whatever guns you have, because you have infinite rockets and infinite lasers and everything. And it's just like you're just sitting there with your finger and your thumb on the two buttons, constantly tapping, and that starts to cramp up.
Yeah. What's the next one you want to chat about, Deucey? Because we got a robust list here.
Yeah, I'd say right into the next generation, and it's one we talked about in our little preamble. It's the Resident Evil 1 for GameCube.
This is just genuinely one of my favorite games ever. And it's one of my favorite remakes ever.
This set the bar for remakes and remasters and whatever else you want to call it. Like, yeah, this was unimaginable, especially because the GameCube up to that point was getting this reputation of being a kiddie console when you had Xbox and PlayStation 2 doing what they were doing with Metal Gear and
they're definitely like
Grand
the more
Theft Auto.
teenage and adult. It's almost like back in the day with Sega and Nintendo, where it's like Sega was more of like the teen and adults kind of demographic.
Yeah.
And Nintendo was very firmly with the kiddie kind of thing. But GameCube even more so. Like they just felt like, even with the handle, people were like pegging it as like a kid's thing, you know?
And like you got Luigi's Mansion at launch, which was a spooky game, but it was definitely a kid's spooky game.
Yeah, it was a whimsical spooky.
Yeah. And then comes this one where like if your kid asks for Luigi's Mansion and you get Resident Evil's Mansion, they're going to have some nightmares.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly, I would say. So this game was out, I think it was 2002, and the original Resident Evil was 96. So just 6-year difference, but it's amazing because, you know, nowadays, like you see a 6-year console difference, and like there's a difference, but it's not as significant as the PS1 to PS2 GameCube generation.
You need like in-depth side-by-side analysis just to see the differences these days.
In most cases, and also, you know, you do need a proper monitor or TV.
Yeah.
Right, you also need proper hardware to really get like the huge differences like in a PC game.
Yeah.
But if you put 1996 Resident Evil to 2002 Resident Evil, it's just, I mean, literally night and day in some instances. It's a wild difference. So when this game came out, my brother and I were just obviously stupidly excited, but it was the first instance where I feel like we knew the concept of what a remake was. Because I don't know, I couldn't think of too many like in the PS1 era that were considered remakes, remasters, what have you. This is the first instance where I feel like they kind of revitalized the game.
PS1, and we didn't put this on this list, but just to sidetrack, a PS1 remake you could say is Pong.
Oh yeah, there was Pong on there. Yeah.
I was just thinking about that this morning. I was like mind blown. I was like, whoa, Pong was the originator of a lot of games. And then finally in PS1 era, they modernized it and made it hip.
Well, and there's a few of those old games did it too, because I think there was like, you know, a Super Nintendo version like Space Invaders and stuff like that. But those were because I think those technically would be remakes because, you know, obviously those games didn't look like they were in Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
But they weren't significant to me. Like they definitely looked different from before. I just feel like Resident Evil was the first instance where it was like that first big game where it's like, holy crap, this is a new game at this point, you know?
And there was so much new about it. So right now, this is why I consider a remake different than a remaster of like Metal Gear Delta, is like they added so much to Resident Evil on GameCube compared to the original that like it is a new game to me, and it is now like the canon I want compared to playing the PS1 version is a novelty, whereas this one is what you play for the story. And I don't know if they're doing that with Delta, which is why I consider it different. Like,
well, see, I think so the thing is like this, when you distill it to what it is, it's still 95% 1-to-1 to the original game, which is really what Delta is too, right? It's just 1-to-1 to the original game down to the, I think they might have optimized some things or streamlined certain things, but they really said that they wanted to keep it as close as possible to the original. Mm-hmm. And also, I'd imagine that versus recording new voices, that's also a budgetary thing too. Like they don't have to hire a bunch of voice actors to come back and like, hey, you want this or that, right? So I think it's one of those things where that's why it's so loose to define these things,
yeah,
right? Because I would never call Resident Evil Remake a remaster because it's not. Like it's a definite. You cannot run that on the PS1, and you cannot run Metal Gear Solid Delta on a PS3 or even a 360 or PS4. You know, so it's where it's a remake for sure. But I feel like this is the first sort of stepstone into remakes and remasters. That's why you have so many now. I think it's because Capcom showed everybody like, yeah, you could take what's old and make it new again and make it more impactful, which is what they did. Like Remake alone has just a much more intense atmosphere. Everything just looks and feels better. The controls are mostly the same, right? 'Cause it's still tank controls.
Yep.
But it feels like a brand new stinking game, and that's why for me I could always go back to this one. And it's always funny because, like we talked about, they remade this in 2002, and it's been ported to other consoles. And I guess it would have been PS4. They did the Resident Evil Remake remastered, where they basically took the remake and upscaled it so it can look better on PS4. There's like widescreen support. So it's funny. This is the one where it's like, it's not a reboot, but it encompasses like 2 of the 3 things we're talking about today.
Yep.
All right, so the next one I'll get to is Mortal Kombat 9. This falls under the reboot category.
Yeah.
Because Mortal Kombat, up to this point, Mortal Kombat 9 came out in 2011. I was really excited for it because I had loved Mortal Kombat since the beginning, and really the series had kind of gotten stale for a little bit. Like they had Mortal Kombat 4, which I know wasn't as popular as 1, 2, and 3, and that's also partly because arcades were slowly dying. So much so that the PS2 era Mortal Kombat games never went in the arcades. It was Deadly Alliance, Deception, and Armageddon. And I loved 2 of those games. I was not a fan of Armageddon too much because I love the idea of having like every character imaginable in there. But they took out what made the game most noble, and that was the fatalities. Like they're just generic combo fatalities, right?
That was that one, huh?
And I think the whole story there is also like it's basically like it's Armageddon, so all the characters sort of die, which led into the reboot of 2011, where this was very much rooted in the original lore of Mortal Kombat 1. Maybe a little bit 2, I guess, too, because they have some characters and a little bit of 3. But this is sort of like the reboot the series needed because the series had been really stale. Like those 3D games were good, but they didn't really advance the way I thought they should. Like I thought there was a big leap from Deadly Alliance to Deception, and Armageddon was like, well, we're kind of ending this, so just throw everything at the wall and let it stick.
This is the definition of a reboot in all modern terms because, and we didn't mention it, but they're in between Armageddon and 9 is Mortal Kombat versus DC.
That's right. I totally forgot about that one.
And I think
Mortal Kombat 8.
Yeah. And I think they really took a page from DC's book because DC has rebooted their entire universe so many times it's hard to keep track of. And I'm not even talking about the movies recently.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is years ago.
In the comics, they were doing this every other month. But Mortal Kombat looked at it and said, "Oh, time travel. That's awesome." And so they went back and they've remade like 1, like you said, 1, 2, a little bit of 3 into Mortal Kombat 9. Mortal Kombat X was sort of like 3 and 4 sort of like remade and everything. And then they went into 11, which was kind of just its own thing. But
I think that was like the peak of what they had been doing, right? Between 9 and 10. So to me, I really loved 11. But that was definitely like their trilogy point where it's like, all right, we need to try something different or refresh it, so to speak. And that's where we got MK1 in 2023, I think it was.
And that was my next point is, once again, like DC, they rebooted it again with time travel.
They did.
And then they literally just called it Mortal Kombat 1.
Yeah, on the 30th anniversary, no less.
Yeah.
But MK9 introduced that awesome story mode that we love so much in NetherRealm games between Injustice and Mortal Kombat, where there's like this whole... There's fights in between these narrative cutscenes, and they're all really well thought out.
Oh, actually, that was MK versus DC also.
That's right.
That's why it branched out into Injustice and this one.
That's right. Yeah, and Mortal Kombat 9 was like that was the one I played the most because I played this online, and like all the fatalities were back. They looked great. The graphics were really amazing. Like the new combat system was right. So it was kind of a combination of the dialogue combo system MK3, but with a little bit more freedom. Because I think that's the one thing that sucked about MK3 that, especially at the time, that people even recognize is like. Those dialogue combos were dialogue combos. Like you just input a certain button combination.
Oh, and then
it'll pull them off.
It'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could eventually kind of make up your own strings, but that's it. Like they're confined to that. Whereas MK9 was a little bit more freeform, like Street Fighter, where it's like you had your dialogue combos, but you could also intersperse them with other moves and other combo lines, right? So this was just like a fantastic reboot. And it's still one of my favorite games in the whole series. Like I wish they would remaster the reboot of MK9.
The only thing I have with it is that its story mode was a little too difficult in some parts.
Was. I do vividly remember beating Shao Kahn with Stryker by just shooting his gun. It was like back, forward, and X over and over and over because it was just a little too cheap. That would be my biggest complaint by far.
Like I feel like 10 and 11 dialed it back to where you can enjoy the story because you might lose a couple times, but it's not like an infinite loop of repeats trying to beat one boss. I remember way back. I was playing this with Juan, and it was an entire afternoon, and I don't know if we ever beat Shao Kahn. We were just playing that. We paused for lunch. We came back to it. It was just ridiculous.
I honestly don't know if I beat Shao Kahn with anyone else in the story mode. I know it was Stryker because it was just so cheap. It was just... he getting that hit stun after you get shot in the face.
Yeah.
I just do that over and over. I was like, this is stupid. That's my biggest thing with any game. It's like when I have to do dumb repetitive tactics like that to beat the boss. It's like, this isn't fun. There's nothing enjoyable about this.
Yeah.
What's the next one you want to talk on, Dusey?
I will stick with the GameCube era because this was their thing at the time, apparently. And we're going to go into Metal Gear Solid, the first one.
Oh, yeah. I really loved this game when it came out. Twin Snakes was, I thought at the time at least, a phenomenal remake. It was 2004, I think.
Yeah. And it really did for me what I wanted a remake to do was like take what we had already played, but make it easier or like more modern. So it took the Metal Gear Solid 2 play style and abilities and then tacked it onto 1, which now in hindsight, it did break the game a little.
Yeah, I was going to say, you used the word tacked on. I think that's the best way to describe it because it did break the game. It made so many boss fights just trivial. Like that, and it kind of sucks because these boss fights are meant to be kind of cinematic, and I thought they were tuned pretty properly in the original Metal Gear. But now it's like if you just go into first-person mode, well, everything's dead.
Yeah, just do some headshots, and then that takes off a lot of life, and then you're done.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't care because like they added on to the cutscenes, which again is of the time. Like
it's a stylistic difference.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to be critical of it. And I think, you and I think we're reasonably critical about things. We're like, all right, well, I recognize this isn't for me, but I also recognize this part of the time where some people are just like shitting on this thing like it's the worst thing ever made.
Yeah, I'm like, no, this was cool back then and I'm sure the people now shitting on it are either too young to remember or they want to be part of the crowd that says it
on the clickbait train.
Yeah, whereas back then, they were just as hyped because they had just seen Matrix and Matrix Reloaded, and now they're like, oh, awesome, Solid Snake is such a badass. Now he's doing these things that Neo was doing. And like, yeah, be okay with that. I was okay with that.
Yeah.
Now, though, if they wanted to remake Metal Gear Solid 1 in the way that they're remaking Delta, I would be okay with that too.
Oh, I would love that because I don't think there's ever a time they would remake Twin Snakes because it really feels like Nintendo let this one off to die. Like it came out, it was a deal with Silicon Knights, if I recall. I think they had some sort of partnership, and Silicon Knights made like Two Human. They made Eternal Darkness. So I think that was a thing, right? It was Twin Snakes and Eternal Darkness, and I thought there was a throw in that might have been canceled. So this was like their partnership. And it released, it got great reviews at the time. Like, people weren't critical of it. I think it's easy to be critical of it after the fact when it's like 10 years later. And like, yeah, like some of the choices weren't so good. Like having Ninja do these weird, crazy flips and Matrix dives and slow-mo and whatever. Or like, Solid Snake hopping off a rocket. Like, yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah.
But like you said, you see, like that was hot stuff in the early 2000s, and when everyone was trying to capture that sort of a Matrix bullet time effect, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you look at this as like almost like a John Woo type of game, like a John Woo Metal Gear, maybe it's not as bad. But even then, like it's an enjoyable time no matter how you slice it. I think.
Yeah, they didn't change the story to do these new cutscenes. They just put the cutscenes in as weird like icing on the cake. So the story is still the exact same, which everybody loved back then, and which is why it made it feel like a cinematic experience. And now, if you want, you can skip the cutscenes if you have to, but I won't.
Yeah, exactly. I would love for them to re-release this on the Switch 2 app. I don't know if it's ever going to happen because I don't know. Like, who knows if the source code still exists at this point? Who knows? Who knows what happens to this thing? I have no idea what the deal is with Twin Snakes. Like, Silicon Knights doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, but Konami still does, so that maybe they want to acknowledge it. Like,
who knows?
I
They still haven't. They released the Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1, which obviously should mean that there's Volume 2 at some point, because we need Metal Gear Solid 4, and there's other games. Like, who knows if they'll even consider releasing Twin Snakes on that, right? But we'll never know. This game's been arguably dead for 21 years. But to me, it's still a fantastic remake. Stylistic choices aside, I think it's a good efforts for remaking a game that was, it's one of the most influential of all time.
I recently watched another review on it. He was comparing the original and the remake, and he made a good point about, like, this one is easier to just go back and play as a game. Like,
oh yeah, because it's newer. Yeah, exactly. That's fair.
You don't have as much backtracking, and like I said, there's the quality of life improvements from Metal Gear 2 in there.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it just plays a little bit better because it is based on Metal Gear Solid 2, which made big differences from Metal Gear Solid 1. So I'd say the PS1 game is probably the better experience overall, but you should also experience the GameCube one, if anything, just to make your own sort of conclusion of what you think of it, I think it's a great remake either way. The one I'll mention here, I really like this game. I don't think many people do, unfortunately. It's Maximo Ghost to Glory on the PS2. Ghouls and Ghosts, Ghosts and Goblins, I love those games. I've never beaten them because they're just ungodly hard, as they notoriously are. They're just brutally difficult. You have like an awkward jump. He plays Arthur, and he's just totally defenseless essentially, and like everything's just out to kill you. Yeah,
yeah.
So the sort of, I guess you consider this, actually this is a reboot, I would say, because it's not even a remaster or a remake of the original game. It's almost like,
is it a 3D or is it a 2.5D?
It's a 3D, fully 3D platforming game. It's still really difficult, but I love the difficulty in this game. I actually finished this one way back. My buddy used to watch me play it all the time because like he always just get frustrated. So it's like he just watched me. He's like, "This is really great that you can get through this because I want to see more of this game."
I think I watched you play it a little too. I might have borrowed it once and didn't get very far.
Maybe. I was like probably hyping the game. You're like, I don't know what this game's great about. What it's talking about. Yeah, but I really love this game. It's a good sort of reimagining of the Ghosts and Goblins series. Arthur looks totally different in here. It plays really, really well, but it has the same charm as the original games. I just feel like this game is not talked about enough. It's just kind of forgotten. Because they did come out with a sequel that wasn't as good. That was a little bit more... I guess that one was more like a 2D game in a sense, too. Whereas like it had like 3 levels, but you still were kind of plotting like level by level. Whereas this first game was like sort of like a collectathon kind of gimmick. Which I really loved. I still would love to play this again. Like I have to put it on my PS3 or through an emulator. And it sucks that it's forgotten because I feel like now's the time they revitalize Ghosts and Goblins, even though they had Resurrection, which I guess I could put on this list. That 2D game that came out a couple years ago, I don't know if you remember that one.
No.
Oh, I thought I could have sworn I told you about it, but it's on Switch and everything at this point.
Because I was just thinking in my head, like with all these games coming out, like Shinobi and Ninja Gaiden and everything, like now would be the time for Ghosts and Goblins resurgence.
It's out. Yeah, well, it's called Resurrection.
Yeah,
so check it out. It's really freaking hard.
Of course.
I've only gotten through a couple levels. I should go back to it because it's been again like a couple years. But it's a great reimagining. I just want another Maxima is what I should be explicit about.
You know, if any game were to do a roguelite experience, a Ghosts and Goblins should be on the list.
It should. Yeah. I think it's one of those Capcom properties it could tap.
You are going to die in that. Yeah. So might as well like change things up and see if you can like level up in the process.
I would love like a Maximo kind of Souls-like kind of gimmick. Yeah. It's a great one. Your next one, Dusey.
My next one is in the 360 era. And something I never thought was going to happen, but the attention to detail they put into this was amazing. And it is the DuckTales Remastered.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
This was like just a surprise out of nowhere.
Well, here's what's crazy about this is that you could technically call this a remake.
Exactly.
Yeah, right? But it's a remaster. This is what I'm talking about. Where
it's in
like,
the title.
Yeah, it's like those lines are really blurred.
It is so weird.
This is like graphically... not the Nintendo game at all.
No.
And it plays like the Nintendo game. I don't think they use the same source code from the Nintendo game.
No, because they've remade all the levels.
Yeah.
All the levels are a little more open. They have multiple paths and everything. Even though they got the original cartoon voice actors, which was amazing, the ones that were still with us, they re-recorded all new lines. It wasn't like they just took the text from the Nintendo game and spoke it. They just made an entire new script for this game. And yeah, this was... so fun up until the last boss, and I was like, wait, they kind of changed the escape in this game, which made it a little more difficult. But I mean, if you grew up with the original Nintendo game, that game was so easy. It was one of the first ones I ever beat as like a little 5 or 6 year old.
Yeah, that game was great because it was tuned for kids, like to kind of be a breezy playthrough, like difficult but not too difficult.
Yeah. But now this one, they even like got all the original music and remixed it and remastered it, and it just top to bottom, this is one of my favorite remaster remakes ever.
Yeah, I knew this would be on your list, and that's partly why I didn't put it on mine, but it is a fantastic remake, or remaster, excuse me.
Yeah, no, either one.
Yeah, I believe it's still available on modern consoles, right? I think you get it for a few bucks. I don't think it's on Switch, though, unfortunately, right?
No, yeah, that'd be a perfect place for it, but I currently have it in my library on Xbox.
Yeah, I think I do, too. I think I also have a physical version of one of them or something. I don't know, but yeah, this is a great one. This is a really good one to put on the list for sure. The one I'll talk about next, this one was really impactful for me at the time. I was very hyped and pre-ordered it. Ninja Gaiden on the original Xbox.
Oh, yes.
I love the original Ninja Gaiden games on Nintendo. Also very difficult, notoriously so, but it was also just a gorgeous game with cutscenes, which we take for granted nowadays, and we tend to skip through them, but that was a pretty big thing back in the Nintendo. Like, to have a story, these story stills come through and tell you about what's going on.
And not just stills. I mean, there was some motion in them.
There was a little bit of animation, yeah. So they rebooted this game on the Xbox, and holy crap, you want to talk about a technical showpiece, just sort of a new template for action games, it's Ninja Gaiden on the Xbox. I remember playing this game, and then like the first level alone, I was already sold. Which again, ironically, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound sold me in the first level as well. Like the moment I booted, I was like, "This is it."
Oh
I'm
yeah,
ready.
I told you about it on the last episode. I was like, you're playing the cutscene from the Nintendo game,
Yeah.
and then you switch over into the new Ninja, and I was like, yeah,
It's great.
I'm here for that.
It's great, and that's how I felt when I played the 2004 game because, it does have some similarities to the original Nintendo game as far as like Hayabusa and like some of the themes of it, right? But really, it's a brand new game from end to end, and like
Isn't the story similar?
it's
Like,
similar. It's
yeah.
almost like a
But the
like
levels-
a multiverse kind of gimmick, I guess, right? Like
Yeah,
it's,
the levels are all different because in the Nintendo you start out in a city.
Yeah,
which
and
is
here
weird.
you start in like like a 4C Japan kind of thing, and the game is really difficult, but it's also very fair. Like that first boss, I would say that's really
No.
one of the most difficult bosses.
Yeah, don't call that fair.
Yeah, I was going to say that boss is a different learning curve. It's really just sort of the threshold. Like if you get past this, the rest of the game will be hard, but it won't be as bad. Like you kind of get. It's almost like your primer of what to expect for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
And the game just throws one massive boss at you after another. Like all the environments are different. They're all broken up by levels, so it's not open world. It's by mission, which again I love that structure to begin with. And it's just an incredible game. And to me, this is also one of the first instances that had DLC. I don't know if you remember the Hurricane packs back then, Ducey.
vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, so before there was Ninja Gaiden Black, which was sort of an enhanced port with more difficulty and I think tuned weapons and other additions, they had the Hurricane packs, which are just bonus packs of levels that are also more difficult. And this was like the first instance of downloading new content that I can recall for myself because the Xbox had a hard drive and I remember having to go online and like, what am I doing with this? It's kind of cool, So this was like just a prime example of how to make an action game. And I think a lot of games took the template that this made and have run with it, like Stellar Blade and countless of other games that we could play today.
This reboot was such a reboot that like for the longest time I didn't put two and two together that it was sort of taking what the Nintendo version did and making it modern, like we said, loosely with the story and everything. I just was like, oh, Ninja Gaiden is on the Xbox now, and I remember there was an old game called that.
Yeah.
But I didn't even put two and two together that the main character Hayabusa was the same guy and stuff like that.
I think I should have looked this up, but I think I would guess by 2004 there really hadn't been any Ninja Gaiden games maybe since Nintendo, because Super Nintendo had the trilogy,
Yeah.
which
Was just the Nintendo one.
yeah, it's weird because that you would think that's like a remastered port, and I think it does have like slightly enhanced graphics if I recall, because I think you
More-
have like a repro or something, right?
I do have a reproduction of it, and it's more than slightly.
Is it?
It's kind of like Mario All Stars.
Oh, is it? Okay.
They do 16-bit graphics and everything, but the levels are all exactly the same, and the difficulty is still there. The knockback and all that.
So it's really just like a fresh coat of paint more than anything
Yeah.
else. Yeah. So that might be the last Ninja Gaiden game that came out, because I can't remember anything from after the NES 16-bit era that came out. Like maybe, I don't know about Game Boy. So yeah, it'd been a while since Ninja Gaiden came out. So it's your point where you're like, oh, this is weird. It's on Xbox, it's Ninja Gaiden, and it's new.
Yeah, I'm like, why? Well, they just get to reuse the name like that?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, okay. It's like even by the same production and everything. So okay, yeah.
Yeah, by Tecmo. So this one, it's just one of my all-time favorites. And I think this is another prime example of how to do a reboot, because this did set off a whole new series. Like there's even a new Ninja Gaiden 4 coming out later this year in October. And we also got Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, which is a bit of a remake of Ninja Gaiden 2.
Is 4 going to be like a sequel to 3 or the original trilogy, or like,
I'm not sure, because
is
3,
it another reboot?
I don't know, because 3 is that weird one where it initially came out, Ninja Gaiden 3.
I never even played that one.
I played the Razor's Edge, which is sort of that version that they fixed, so to speak, because Ninja Gaiden 3, I guess, was like just poorly received when it came out for a whole lot of reasons. I think it was a different developer. I don't even think it was Team Ninja.
Yeah.
And then they did sort of I guess we'll call it like I don't want to call it a remaster, but sort of an enhanced version called Razor's Edge.
It was a big fix.
Yeah, it was a big old fix that put it more in line with like Ninja Gaiden 2. I heard it was really good. I only played like a few levels and it was enjoyable, but I didn't stick with it. So I don't know where 4 fits in that whole thing. I feel like it's just, it might be one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, 3 exists, but we're gonna kind of forget about it, you know? All right, Ducey, what's the next one you want to dive into here?
I will lump these two together because they came out so close to each other, and one kind of feels like DLC to the other. But it's the most recent Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes.
Oh, yes.
I guess you could throw in Resident Evil 4. I mean,
Well, it's interesting because when I knew we were both going to put Resident Evil on this list.
Yeah.
And Resident Evil could really have its own whole episode about its remakes, remasters, or whatever else.
Reboots.
Yeah. Reboots.
You know, I was thinking about this too. The whole series has had 2 reboots where 1 through Code Veronica, 0 through Code Veronica, all tank controls, all what we know Resident Evil started out as. 4 was over the shoulder, more action.
I would consider that a reboot because that is not what the original games were.
Yeah, for sure. And it kind of influenced like other games outside of Resident Evil.
It basically influenced everything. Yeah. If there's an over-the-shoulder third-person camera, it's because of Resident Evil 4 these days.
And then Resident Evil 7 comes along and reboots the entire series again.
Yep.
And now 7, 8, and 9 all look very similar. But for remakes, when it comes to that, 2 and 3 were just out of this world for me. Like, when you announced, or when you sent me the link that Resident Evil 2 was finally being remade, and that was my favorite of the entire series, I was like, I hadn't been that excited for a game in a long time or since. Like,
it's funny because I vividly remember. So I was on a work trip in Chicago, like one of the few work trips I went to, and I was in the airport, I think coming home. And I just happened to see whatever thing was going on. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2 is being remade. I sent it to you like right away because up to this point, we had heard rumors of it. There was no confirmation, and it was coming out sooner than expected because this was like 2018 and released 2019. And yeah, this remake, again, with Resident Evil, it's one of my favorite remakes ever because it's a remake of one of my favorite games ever with Resident Evil 2.
And like, I have said what I said about it not being as great as the original when they talk about the A/B system and stuff like that, but it was still just so great as a remake and so fun. Like, I haven't replayed a game back to back that much until like Resident Evil 4 a little bit, but I replayed it so many different ways, different character skins. I used infinite ammo or played it legit. And then I remember when we were playing it and talking about it, we were like, well, I mean, 3 naturally has to be coming, right? It has
to be. Yeah.
And all of a sudden they released that as well, but it was sort of like an aside. It was like, oh, by the way, we're going to do this too.
Yeah, I have I don't know. It sucks because I do enjoy the remake for 3, but I don't enjoy it nearly as much as the remake for 2 because I do concede like it sucks that they basically in their eyes streamline the A and B scenarios because really like the A and B scenarios are great, but they're really just repetitive, right? Because it's the same game back and forth.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I love it any less.
Yeah.
You know, like,
but 3, I mean, they really streamlined.
3, they really streamlined, and it's interesting because 3 back then felt like a spin-off game because that's really what it was, and it felt like a smaller, more action-sized game, and that's exactly what the remake felt like, which was both to its detriment and to its advantage. Where it's like it felt like what the original did, but it also feels like it was such a brief, for me, easy adventure. Like I actually got through it pretty quickly. Like I remember playing it. It was like prime pandemic time, and I just got through it pretty simply. I was like, okay, well that's cool. Like it didn't make me feel the way the Resident Evil 2 remake did, but it's still just a totally great remake. It's just underwhelming when you've played 2. I think.
Like I said, it definitely could have been DLC because you can handle it as quickly as like I did the Resident Evil 7 DLCs. It's like interesting in that aspect, but I mean, I guess at the time in 2020. We were just lucky we were getting anything coming out.
I know. We were just lucky that we could even pick up games, frankly. Well, actually, I mean, there was digital. It's just for me, I can't pick up games, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just happy that we could play something in the confines of our home while the world is, dying, unfortunately. The next one I will talk about is a big one from 2016. It's Doom.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a reboot because this is not a remake of the original game by any means. Doom kind of had a similar arc to what you're talking about with Resident Evil, where it's like you had sort of Doom through Doom 2, which is weird because it's only a couple games, but there's like Final Doom, there's Ultimate Doom, there's different Doom versions, Doom 64, and then Doom 3 kind of turned everything on its head, where that was like
story driven.
Yeah, story driven. It was very dark. It's a lot more moody. I don't even know if we want to call that a reboot, but it kind of is, really.
No,
it's
I
would,
reboot because it's like very slower paced, and they're like, well, we could see this going in this direction. And then 2016 came out, and they were like, no.
Yeah, and it's crazy because Doom 3 was the last Doom game come out for a long time. That was like 2003, 2004, and it was a techno showpiece like Doom was originally. And there was rumors of a Doom 4 coming out. There's actually footage online of like what was supposed to have been Doom 4, and it was almost like a Call of Duty looking game, which is weird. And then we got the 2016 reboot, and for a boomer shooter head like myself, this is like the ultimate reboot of the ultimate shooter back in the day. It looked and played amazing. It felt fast and frenetic. It encapsulated everything that made the original Doom so good.
It felt like the original Doom, but now with like verticality to it.
Yeah, like there was a lot more mobility with the Doom Slayer. There was the whole glory kills where it's like the idea is you want to be in their face and shoot them because when you do a glory kill, you get your you get health back
and ammo. Yeah,
well, you get ammo if you use a chainsaw.
Chainsaw, yeah.
So you had sort of these these different systems at play that all worked with each other, which I love in any game. When it's like you give me all these systems and they all work. There's an interplay between them where it's like it's almost like a gameplay loop where it's like I have to make sure my ammo's topped off, I have to make sure my health's topped off because you can't fire away from a distance and shoot because you're probably going to die when you get up close, right? And so this game really made you made you feel what the original Doom felt, where it's everything's like directly in your face. You're supposed to be a Doom Slayer. You're supposed to be up with these demons and just killing everything in your way. And for me, when there's a time when we're getting with like cutscenes and tutorials, this game just flat out says like, no. Here's your shotgun and go out and just kill everything. So much so at the beginning of the game, like you're being tended to like on this operating table by a scientist, and he's like almost kind of giving you this whole idea of like, you should do this or like look up, look left or what the hell he says.
Yeah.
And then you just rip off the cuffs or whatever and you start shooting everything.
Yep.
That's what encapsulates this game. It's just fast freneticism and it's a fantastic reboot.
For my next one is around the 360 era, and it's not as rebooty as that. It's just kind of a fresh coat of paint, you might say, but it's a great game from the N64 era, and this is Perfect Dark.
Oh yeah.
When they brought it to Xbox Live and Xbox Rare Replay, like they didn't even have to do that much to it because it was so great on the N64. It was the natural successor to GoldenEye, and since we couldn't get a new GoldenEye because of all the licensing,
we couldn't even get an old GoldenEye.
Yeah. Might as well go with the next best thing, which was Perfect Dark. And I mean, they had tried the reboot, I guess you could say, with Perfect Dark Zero, but they were like, no, never mind. Let's just kind of remaster the N64 and not change much. Like, there was already voice acting in it. They didn't redo any of that. They just put a fresh coat of paint on all the characters.
And they modernized the controls so it has dual stick support, which is really the biggest change for me because I can still play GoldenEye and Perfect Dark just fine. It's just there are configurations where you could use like the C sticks and whatnot, but it's not quite dual sticks, right? And that's really what they added for the remaster of Perfect Dark is dual stick controls, so it feels even better than it did.
I remember when this came out and I was like, if they could just get the licensing right, this is all I want from GoldenEye is just a little fresh coat of paint. It doesn't have to reinvent the wheel or anything. But they couldn't do anything until, a couple years ago. Yeah,
exactly. How long ago was this Perfect Dark remaster that came out? It was 360 era. I don't know what year. So
yeah,
at least 15 years. That's pretty wild that you and I have seen that much transpire. Like, oh, GoldenEye finally came out in like 2023 on a modern platform.
And I'd say it was just redone enough that it made me want to play through the entire game just to see how they changed a lot of the looks of things, because towards the end of this game, a lot of the levels start to look a little bit samey.
Yeah, you could kind of tell, and that's the case with a lot of games where it's like, oh, we're running out of development time. We gotta kind of pace these things together.
But with the new look to it, I was like, oh, well, at least let me see what they did to touch it up. You can't redo the maps or anything, but at least make it look more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just really enjoyed this, and I still put in a lot of time on the multiplayer. You throw in some of the simulants and go to town.
Hey, you're giving me this to boot this one up too, because this one is on my 360/Series X library, and I do like to pick this one up from time to time because even if you play the first few levels, we always talk about this too in other episodes where it's like we miss this format of having like objectives and like the 3 different difficulties. Like it's just such a thing that you and I miss so much that we have to go back to the old games to experience it, like the Splinter Cells and whatnot, or Perfect Dark. So sometimes I do get the itch to boot this back up because it's super easy to get into and it's on Rare Replay, which again is a fantastic package. Yeah. The next one I'll talk about is a pretty major one, I would say. It's the Final Fantasy Remake, which is now over 2 games. It's going to be completed over 3 games, which is pretty wild.
Final Fantasy 7?
Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Did I just say Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, Final Fantasy 7 Remake. The first one came out in 2020, so again, like prime pandemic time. It was originally released on PS4. There was just...
When did they first announce that,
So here's what's the crazy thing is that they showed sort of a tech demo on PS3, I want to say 2012, somewhere around there, I want to say. That's at least that's as far as I can remember, somewhere around there. And that tech demo looked like probably like a CG trailer of what the PS3 could do, and we thought we were gonna get a Final Fantasy VII remake because really people have been clamoring for this forever too. Like Final Fantasy came out in '97. It looks as primitive as it is. It feels as primitive as it is, but it's still just an amazing RPG. And people were like, well, we got a PS2, PS3, like Final Fantasy's still on top. Why aren't you doing a remake? You showed us it. And they finally released in 2020 on the PS4. So it was like a whole generation later, they released this remake. And the wait was worth it because when I got this game, I played right through it. I was just like hooked, again, partly because we were just, at home 24/7 during the pandemic. But this was like a total reimagining of the game. It's not so turn-based. Like it still has turn-based elements to it, which is kind of weird. So it's a bit of an action game, but you still pause the combat to cast spells or abilities and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So it's a weird sort of midpoint where it's not quite real-time combat, but it is. And it's interesting because it only encompasses like I'd say like the first disc of the original game. So that was the hard part. Is the original game was 3 discs long. The story arc of how it goes. And the first game we got was really just the first disc. And then they released Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in 2023, or was it 2024? 2024. And that's sort of the sequel to the remake. And that has probably like discs 2 to maybe like the beginning of 3. So it's much longer game. It's on PS5, so it's a lot bigger. This felt like the open world game of Final Fantasy VII in 1997. So these two remakes are some of the best for me because it's one of my favorite games of all time, and they've totally reimagined them and modernized it in a lot of ways. Some people might be critical, saying like I would like just straight turn-based combat, and I'd say to some extent you're right. But at the same time, what they've delivered here is a truly amazing experience. Like I put both games on my top lists for whatever year they came out in.
I am on the boat of like, I don't know, it just didn't hook me or interest me. They talked about the remake for so long, and then it came out, but it was only part 1, and I was like, what the hell? We just waited like a decade for this damn thing to come out, and you're only giving me a demo version of it? Like, I mean, I know it was a long
it was still like, it was at least 40 hours, but it's crazy because you're still right, because, like Midgar in the first game, the first disc is like, I don't know, 10 hours maybe, right? So it's like you're getting through like the 40 hours of the beginning of the game essentially.
And I still have to wait for, and when that one came out, they didn't even guarantee when the second part was going to come out. And lo and behold, it took another 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, about 4 years.
It's like waiting for a show on Netflix these days.
It's like, let me get to the next season. Oh, well, give me about 4 or 5 years. And we'll get just 6 episodes.
I'll probably finally get around to this whenever they put out the third part on PlayStation 7.
Yeah.
And then I can play all 3 of them back to back, maybe.
I will say it's really interesting and funny to me that this game, so it was a PS4 exclusive, obviously. It did get ported to PC later. It's on PS5. They were supposed to have come out with the Xbox version in 2021 because there was rumor that the PS4 is going to have like 1 year exclusivity, and we're 5 years later, the Xbox does not have Final Fantasy VII at all, and Switch 2 is actually getting Rebirth pretty soon. So I always thought that was funny. It's like, Xbox it's doing whatever it's doing, and they don't have one of the biggest franchises, and in all this time they could have ported it. It's been on PC a few times, and Switch is getting it of all things.
I remember,
and I actually would love it on Switch.
I was initially waiting for it to come out on Xbox because I didn't have the PS4 at the time.
I don't think you had at the time.
Yeah. And then I finally got a PS4 so I could play it, but I never went into it because also PS5 was going to be coming, and we'd heard about the second one at that point. And like you said, still, it never showed up on Xbox to the point where I forgot it was even announced for Xbox.
Yeah, right. I'd imagine at this point it's probably just canceled. Like, it's not coming out. Like, Xbox barely got Final Fantasy 14 last year, and that's after like 5 years of them saying it was coming out. And then when they released it, it was like a mess. So like there was a lot of technical issues, server issues. I think there was something you couldn't text chat or something broken about that. It was just a messy port, and it sucks because there's people who've obviously been waiting like 5 years to get that, and I don't know what state it's in now, but it's weird. It's like Final Fantasy just does not like Xbox for a reason. Like, it's just, I guess it's not financially viable for them. I don't know what the issue is, but it sucks that like one of the biggest games is not on there.
Yeah, you'd think they would just want to. It can't be based on the hardware or anything, right?
No, I don't think so, because you can always make compromises, right? Like, I know the PS5 and Series X are fairly close, right? Like, I think in most instances I've seen like PS5 can outperform Series X, but there's also instances where Series X outperforms it. But it's not significant enough to where it's like we can't release Final Fantasy VII, right?
Yeah.
that's really my whole point here. Yeah,
it's not like PlayStation 1 and Saturn.
Exactly.
That sort of thing.
That's a whole difference there. So I think it's just one of those things where they probably don't see it financially viable because they did get Final Fantasy 16 as well, and that apparently sold like crap. So I don't know. It's weird. I don't know if they'll ever get Final Fantasy 7, but you can play on Switch.
Yep.
Sometime next year.
Can you play the first part on Switch?
I don't know.
Getting Rebirth?
So I'm not sure. I have to look at which one is actually getting ported because I forgot if it's Remake or if it's Rebirth. I think it's Rebirth, but I have to check.
That'd be weird.
I know you're missing a third of the story apparently, so it could be Remake, but I'll have to check it out. I forget.
The one I want to point out or bring up is a great reboot for us and our friends, and came out once again just at the right time before the pandemic, and that is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. Mm-hmm. I guess that's kind of the official title because there's so many.
There's a Modern Warfare.
Yeah. I mean, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare was a great. You could almost say a reboot of Call of Duty itself, because up until that point, it was all World War II stuff. Nobody had ever really thought of doing modern combat at the time. And then that was like the Halo killer back then. And then it got a little wacky.
Well, it got a little wacky.
We're going into space. We're wall walking.
It got pretty long in the tooth.
We're jetpacking.
Yeah, it got really... like arena shooter-like, but not arena shooter-like.
Yeah.
Because I would have loved it if it was more like a Quake game or Unreal.
But then Modern Warfare came out, and we were like, we'll
try it out.
Let's give it a shot. And boy, were we hooked immediately.
Yeah, the single player was really great in this one, and more importantly, the multiplayer is what really hooked us. We played that for hundreds of hours, and that doesn't even count Warzone that came out like a few months later. So this was the reboot that I think we all needed for Call of Duty, because it was just repetitive, and they had tried everything under the sun so much that they went close to the sun.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it was due time, and I don't know if there was a big break between the last one and Modern Warfare 2019. I can't remember.
I mean, I don't think it was the very next. There was probably maybe a year or two.
The usual year?
Yeah.
I would say no more than 2 years.
Yeah.
They wanted to go more than 2 years. But yeah, this one, I forgot why we ended up trying it. I think it was just so much that, we saw that is sort of like going back to the Modern Warfare roots, quite literally. And it was such a really fantastic game. Like, I really love this one. The single player was short but sweet. Like, I've accepted them now. Like, they're these 6 to 8 hour adventures that are just fine.
It's like a Tom Clancy movie.
It's bombastic and fun. It's really enjoyable. Yeah.
And come to find out, we may need another reboot like it, because Black Ops 7 is looking a little wacky again.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I was seeing more on it, and I don't know. I enjoyed Black Ops 6, and then I obviously stopped playing because I didn't have Game Pass, and we all just stopped playing it. So it's like, really, like, I don't play these by myself. So it's like, unless my friends are playing it, I will not bother most of the time. Like, I'll sit there. I always say this. Like, I'll sit there and play fighting games for hours on end, lose or win. But Call of Duty, I can't do by myself. I just get really bored after a while because it's just not fun. And 7, I'm not very excited for so far. I can't really pinpoint why. I don't know if it's sort of that routine where we've played pretty much all of them since Modern Warfare 2018, right?
Yep.
In some capacity.
Yeah. Maybe
some less than others. I think it was Modern Warfare 3 we played less of.
That was the least. I mean, we got in right at the tail end before the next Black Ops came out.
Ops came out, yeah. So I think you and I might be at the point where it's like, all right, we're kind of getting not sick of this, but we're just like, all right, less excited for it.
The only thing I kind of want to look into is Black Ops 7 is talking about 4-player co-op campaign.
Yeah.
And I was like, that kind of harkens back to Halo 3.
It does. I'm curious, though, because it seems like you can replay the end game for cosmetics or gunsmith parts or something, so I almost feel like this might be was it Modern Warfare 3 that had that weird, like, single player where it's almost like Warzone, but single player, where I almost feel like they might be, like, here's a story, but then here's all these basic mission objectives that you'll have to collectively do kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're basing it, but I feel like it's more structured all the way up until the last mission. And then they said the last mission really is like a battle royale for some reason.
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, so there's probably going to be story and cutscenes, which could be awesome in the Black Ops timeline, because all those stories have been really cool. But then, at the end, it's like they said a 1 versus 32.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that part you told me about.
And I was like, what?
PvE.
What? Why?
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm a little apprehensive also because, like, I don't have Game Pass, so I'd have to resubscribe to that if I want to play, because I'm not going to pay $70 for this. I know that much. So I'm sure we'll play it, at least to try it out. But I'm not so excited for it. Actually, I did play the Battlefield 6 beta, and I feel like that game is like... it's on the cusp of being something good if they can fix certain things.
Oh, of course.
Because
which nobody is talking about. Everybody's saying, "Oh, this is finally the return."
No, there's a lot of discourse about the
okay.
state of the beta, which is good because developers have said like, okay, we're looking at these things, but of course, like looking at them and making them actionable to when the game releases is a whole other thing. So I'm skittish about it, but I did enjoy bits of what I played. I just think it needs some more work and tweaks. Like it felt like too much like Call of Duty, where it's like you're getting downed every half second from every direction for no reason.
Oh yeah, that's also very much Battlefield.
Well, it depends. Yeah. Like, what sucks is like we're getting totally off topic here.
Yeah.
It's like I play with our buddies. We had a full squad. We're doing objectives, doing all this and that. And it has the Call of Duty problem where every idiot on your team refuses to play objectives. So it's just 4 idiots who are playing objectives, trying to hold up the team, and we're just getting clobbered. So it's a little bit of a mix of everything. So, but yeah, so I think I'm equally excited for Black Ops 7 and then Battlefield 6, which means I'm skittish and skeptical, but I'll try them out, Yeah. All right, so the next thing we'll talk about, I feel like I have to talk about this because if I don't, Randy will definitely text me and say, why didn't you mention it? Because I should be mentioning this. And this is God of War 2018.
I knew it.
Yeah, we mentioned this, kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the episode when I was kind of defining these, but God of War had come out with, 4 or 5 different games. There's a few PSP games, and really they're all just sort of these arcadey brawlers with a Greek story tied to them, and they're really great. But, like anything else, when you've done it 5, 6, 7 times, it's kind of, you're kind of running yourself, you're running your tires in the mud. It's just kind of the same old without much change.
The only thing they were changing was like, how much bigger can we get the boss
battles? Yeah, the
battles?
Scales would go up.
And then those were becoming more and more like QuickTime events.
Exactly, yeah. So it's just, the formula was getting tired, and I don't know how long it had been since the last God of War. And they finally announced a reboot on the PS4, and it was totally unlike anything we'd seen before for God of War. Like, it was a much more grounded Kratos. This is post-God-slaying Kratos. Like, he has a son named Atreus, and the whole first game is leaving the ashes of your wife to, I forgot, basically like this sort of, ritual points, right? Sort of a journey to get there. And this game it's much more, I almost feel like this game is closer to like Last of Us in that sort of dynamic where it's like, you have Ellie and Joel, where it's like you have the adults guiding the kid, and you have like this dynamic between the two where it's like they're sort of like learning about each other and the story's unfolding. It's like a really mature story, and it's also just Kratos coming to grips with being a father while also like trying not to give into his instincts of being a godslayer kind of thing. And it's amazing. The combat is grounded and heavy hitting. It just feels visceral and satisfying. There's like a ton of side stuff to do. It's a big open world. I can't not talk about the God of War reboot when we're doing a reboot episode, but this is like one of my favorite games in the last generation. And Ragnarok is even better. It's a sequel to it. It's on PS5. It's also on PS Plus. And you really owe it yourself to play these. Deuce, I know we've been busting your balls for like 7 years.
Yeah,
we'll get to it someday. But to me, this is like one of the tip top PS series in my eyes right now.
Going along the lines of this one, though they came out at 2 different times of the 2010s, I want to talk about the Tomb Raider reboot, where for me that was a great gritty reboot of a game that like was very popular back on the PS1. Mostly for the character herself, she was getting a lot of attention, and then the game itself was doing a lot of interesting things as far as 3D platforming adventures were, but they were also like very basic.
Really formulaic.
Yeah.
Like they're almost coming out every single year.
Yeah, and it was always tough. Like I could barely get out of the first level in any of them. I think the furthest I got was in Tomb Raider 3, and that was because you could choose where you went.
Yeah, I think that game was also just a little bit easier than the other two. I feel like 1 and 2, especially 1, were really hard.
They were finally getting the controls more under control, and but now with this reboot I got into that, and it was a gritty reboot of Laura herself. This was her beginning, where she was just sort of like interested in treasure hunting and archaeology, but now she's thrust into survival, and they turned the game into somewhat Uncharted, where it was cinematic, and also a Metroidvania, but in 3D terms and stuff. And I was like, this is awesome, and it has caught my attention fully.
And one of the things I loved about all 3 of the games, because I need to finish Tomb Raider 1 reboot, because I finished 2 and 3 ironically. I don't know how that happened. Yeah. And I love 2 and 3 a lot because they took a lot of what you said from Uncharted, but also they added a little bit of Indiana Jones here, because the actual tomb raiding puzzles are amazing.
Yes.
That's really the highlight of the game. Is like when you're traversing the world, it looks gorgeous. It's really fun. Everything just feels great. But when you're actually raiding tombs, like the name, that's when I feel like I had the most fun in this game because it felt like it was a really rewarding experience when I would solve a puzzle. And it's usually some like Rube Goldberg kind of thing, right?
You're like, why did these ancient peoples do this?
Yeah, I know you get like a trinket or something. You don't really get anything substantial necessarily, but they're just so fun to do. And it's like the perfect marriage of Indiana Jones and Uncharted, but made for Lara. It's really great.
I mean, until The Great Circle came out, this was the only way to really play an Indiana Jones type game.
Yeah, it's the closest approximation to Indiana Jones you could possibly get. Yeah, and again, all three games are great. I know the first game's also got a remaster, I think, too. Like they ported it to, I think it was PS3 and it got to PS4, if I want to say.
Yeah.
Something like that. Mm-hmm. And then there's Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is really good. It's like the only complaint I had about that game is like it leaned a little too heavily on the snowy environment. Like it was like 90% snow for most of the game.
That's where I currently am. It's like right in the middle.
Yeah, and it's a really great game. It's just, I wish there was a little bit more variety there. And then the third one, which I think is called Shadow of the Tomb Raider, that's just amazing from beginning to end. Like that is like the pinnacle of those three games for me. Did you play three at all? No,
I haven't gotten to that one yet. Like I said, I was doing them in order. And
okay,
I actually finished the first one, and then the second one I'm kind of in the middle.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so whenever you get to three, I think you'll really enjoy it because that one was my favorite. It also just looks gorgeous. It also takes place in Mexico, and it's just really amazing. It was like really one of the big showcases for the Xbox One X when I got that thing.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. The next, well, this isn't a game necessarily. I just want to give a lot of love to this studio because to me, they're like the champions of remasters right now, and that's Night Dive Studios. If you listen to this podcast, you always hear me gush about Night Dive whenever they release some remastered version of a game that we fondly loved, and they really are the kings of remasters at this point for me, particularly for old games. Like, there's a lot of games that probably would not be surfaced again had it not been for them because they tend to modernize the controls in some way. They modernize the graphics. They add quality of life enhancements. For instance, like the Turok 2 remaster has like a waymarker, which is like something you desperately needed on the N64 and you didn't have.
It still didn't help me when I replayed it.
It still didn't help. No. Like it doesn't rectify all the issues, right? Because it's still a 28-year-old game. Yeah. But they did their best to make a 20-year-old game playable and more approachable. Doom 64, we go on about that one a lot. Like you can actually see the graphics. That's a big thing. Like
that was so much fun. Now that I could see.
Yeah. You realize how good Doom 64 actually was because you can actually see it now. Like it's a fantastic game. They've done Shadow Man. That's a great remaster. They've done what was the other one I was playing recently? There's The Thing.
Did they do Star Wars?
They did Star Wars Dark Forces.
Yeah.
I think they did Star Wars. I don't think they've done Jedi Knight yet. But basically, like, their whole catalog of remasters is just exceptional from beginning. They've done now they've done the definitive Doom 1 and 2, right? Where they added a whole new episode to that. They recently released Hex and Heretic, and they also did a whole new episode for that as well, like a whole new set of levels.
I still have to download those and get into those.
Me too, yeah. And it's just like this is just the ultimate. They're the ultimate studio for re-experiencing old games. So I had to give my love to them because there's also System Shock. I keep going back to it. System Shock 1 to 2.
Oh yeah, I've always wanted to play that ever since BioShock, and now thanks to them, it's playable. It's
playable.
Accessible.
It's playable on things that aren't PC because like a lot of these games as well were only locked to PC because that's just what they were.
Yeah.
And now they're playable on everything: Switch, PC, Xbox, PS4. They just made everything accessible. So that's why I love them. Like they're one of my favorite developers because it's just they always have some surprise. And I don't think they've really faltered. Like I think there's been some heat around them for the Blade Runner remaster that they did like a few years ago, but they fixed that apparently. So they've just been hitting all the high marks. I love Night Dive. I just feel like we had to shout them out at least on this.
And I mean, we got to knock on wood that they don't like somehow get bought out or have some sort of negative.
Well, they are owned.
Happen.
They did get sort of bought out by Atari, so they're owned by Atari.
Okay.
But Atari's doing a lot of good things anyway. Like they're releasing a ton of good stuff
safe.
lately. Yeah, exactly. It's not Embracer.
It's not Embracer. It's not Microsoft. It's not Sony. The big three.
Yeah.
I wanted to go into. They didn't do these, did they? No. But I'm going to put these two together. Blast from the Past from the PS1 era, Spyro and Crash.
Oh yeah, these were. This is Toys for Bob, if I recall.
Yeah.
Who Microsoft shut down.
Of course.
No, but then they came back, and now they're independent, so they're back.
Yeah, and they were working on something, and then everybody thought that was going to be canceled. But
yes, so they did these two remasters. They did Crash 4, and I want to say they also did the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remakes, I think.
Did they also do Crash Team Racing remake?
Maybe,
yeah.
But either way, Toys for Bob, fantastic developer.
They're right up there with Night Dive for me, with these like cartoony games and stuff, and they know their lane and they'll stick to it. And I mean, I really enjoyed Crash and Spyro back in the day, and they haven't changed too much to bring him forward. In fact, they made Crash harder somehow.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because I guess these are, I would consider these, I guess, remakes, right? Because they still have the same feel of the original games, but obviously the graphics are not what they were on PS1. They look incredible.
But I feel like, can't you push the button to bring back the old graphics?
No, not in these. They had like certain levels that had like the PS1 aesthetic.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I don't think there was a toggle on this one, no.
But still, like, when I replayed Spyro 1, I was like, wow, I remember all of this. And now this is once again that thing in my brain where this is how I remember the PS1 looking when when it didn't look like that.
In my mind, in 1996, this is what it looked like, but it didn't.
And my wife got the Spyro trilogy because she really loved those games, and she played all through Spyro 2 because of this. And yeah, we just can't say enough about how much the work they did, and I'm glad that they brought out a Crash 4, which I actually have not started.
It's an amazing game, but it's pretty difficult, just so you know. Especially if you're trying to get like all the collectibles. There's an insane amount of like it makes Donkey Kong 64 look like child's play. It's crazy, and it's an amazing game.
It would be great too if they were secretly working on a Spyro 4.
I would love it because these two remakes, whatever we want to call them, Spyro Reignited and Crash trilogy. They look amazing, and they play just as well as they did back then. Like, I know there's some tweaks that they did to obviously modernize it, but they're really worthwhile, and they're dirt cheap all the time. These are like $10 to $15 and worth every single penny, because Spyro 1's kind of basic, right? It's just like a collectathon for those diamond gem things.
Yeah, and the dragons.
And the dragons, yeah. And then by 2 and 3, they really set their foot in like the Mario 64 format, and they're even better. And that goes the same for Crash 1, 2, and 3. Like 1 is like kind of a basic, platform that you're on a lane, and then 2 and 3 are a little bit more open, and they're all just amazing games. These are just fantastic remakes that I don't think get recognized enough, frankly.
Yeah, and these remake masters, they don't take away from the originals. So if you really loved them as a kid, you're gonna love just the better looks of them now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're worth every single penny. Yeah. The one I'll talk about next is, I guess, fairly recent. Came out a couple years ago. It's the Dead Space remake. This was out in 2023, January 2023, I think it was. Or was it 2024? I always forget. It's been such a blur the last few years. 2023, right? Because I put it on my list there, yeah. Mm-hmm. So this came out January 2023, and it's a pretty damn great, almost one-to-one remake for the most part. Like, there's some small things they changed. I know someone was throwing a fit because I guess some of the bathrooms aren't gender or something stupid like that.
What?
Yeah, I don't know how you notice that. You have to be some sort of clown, I guess. Right?
I didn't even know there were bathrooms on that.
Me neither.
I'm too busy running away from the aliens.
So there's some like small tweaks that people, I would say, are negligible for the most part. But overall, this is an amazing remake of an amazing game.
They redid some of the you could say set pieces when you're like spacewalking and trying to
the controls are a little bit better there. They add some gameplay there that makes it less of a noise, because it was kind of weak, or it wasn't weak, it was hard to control on the original 360 version. And the 360 one was out in 2008. It still looks pretty good for as old as it is. It's only like 720p and kind of blurry, but it looks great. So this was a great reimagining of everything. It was short and sweet, like it was just like 12-15 hours. It felt like the original game. It's one of the safer remakes, and that might be a detriment to some people, but it's also a great thing because it also means that they didn't really rock the boat too much, and you're getting what you expect out of it. The downside is like almost no one played this, it feels like, because there was Callisto Protocol right before this, which wasn't so hot either. It kind of failed. Then you had Dead Space, which was really good, but most people were waiting for what came out 2 months later in March, which was Resident Evil 4 remake. So it sucks that it seems we won't get a Dead Space 2 remake, because I imagine this sold well, but not like, 20 million or something like that all these studios want to sell, or publishers, I should say. So it sucks, because this was a phenomenal remake, and I wish we could have gotten a remake of 2 and 3 with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was guilty of waiting for Resident Evil 4 instead, and didn't get around to playing this until last October.
I remember that. And, I was like, finally.
Yeah, I still didn't finish it, but I got close to the end. I should go back into that before this year's spooky season.
Mm-hmm. Because that's coming up pretty close. We're almost in September. Yeah. What next one you want to talk about there, Dusey?
Right around, was it late last year or late 2023? Must have been late 2023. we were both really looking forward to this. It's the Super Mario RPG remaster.
Oh yeah, I love this one. This was 2023. Yeah, because it was a late edition then. I remember.
Yeah. Like for the longest time, we loved and we couldn't stop gushing about Super Mario RPG. It was what really got me into RPGs. Well, that and Mystic Quest, but and also for the longest time, because it was Nintendo and Square and they had a bad breakup, we weren't going to see this anywhere else other than back on the original Super Nintendo hardware. So when this was announced, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. And then when you play it again, it just brings back all the same memories. They didn't really go too far out of their way to change anything. And in fact, they made some things a little bit easier. I really like the team up aspect of some of the attacks and everything.
Yeah, that's a little bit Chrono Trigger there. I really like that.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I played this and beat it within like I don't know how many weeks, I was like, oh, I think the Super Nintendo one was just as easy, but we were so young back then, we were, dying a lot.
Well, the hardest part, and you know me, like when I borrowed this from you, I had a hard time getting past that first crocodile guy. I always forget his name.
Oh yeah, I forgot
the
his
pink
name.
guy with the top hat, right? And then I was like, oh, okay, well this game isn't so bad after that. It's just I had to play smartly,
Yeah.
And then when I played through the remake, I played through it pretty fast. And I was like, wow, this game's a lot easier than I remember. Like even the Axiom Rangers and all that was way easier. And it was like, 13, 15 hours. It's just like a nice, sweet, simple RPG. Not simple, but short, I should say.
Did they level scale in this one compared to the... I feel like the first one they didn't.
I don't think they did.
Huh.
I just think that I got better with like the timed attacks and whatnot. Because like the last boss, I almost died quite a few times. I had Peach who was reviving people. She's putting in the work. But it was probably more difficult than the time you had with it. I'm sure I was lower level than you were.
Probably, yeah. Not too much though, but I didn't have to grind in this version like I did in the original Super Nintendo.
I did not either. So I don't know if they tweaked the difficulty, but I know that I did not spend nearly as much time grinding as they did in the original game.
Yeah.
And this one, it's pretty damn close to a one-to-one remake too. Like again, this is like Dead Space where they didn't change a whole lot. They streamlined some minor things, but for the most part, it's very much like the Super Nintendo game, just with a fresh coat of paint and obviously a little bit quicker pace to the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one I will talk about on here is, I guess I'll kind of go back in time a little bit here. It's a DMC Devil May Cry. I want to make a case for this game because this game got the unfair rap when it came out.
That was a definite reboot.
It was a reboot.
And then they said, forget it.
Yeah, it's really weird. So it sucks because this game is really good. It's just a lot of people didn't give it a chance because of the redesign of Dante, which... fair criticism. Like the redesigned Dante does look like an emo doofus. He kind of looks like I think it was like Josh Hartnett or something like that. He was really
that's random.
Yeah, I'll show you because you've probably forgotten too. But it's really weird because
doesn't he have dark hair now?
He has dark hair.
Yeah.
It almost looks like he kind of like Dark Eye Shot. The Crow remake. Do you remember that movie? I know you didn't watch it, but you know how that look he has?
Yeah.
It really reminded me of that, right? So if you remember The Crow from 2024, the awful remake that was just absolute garbage, but the look of the Crow of Eric Draven on there is kind of how the DMC Dante looks. But if you put away the awful redesign of Dante, this is a really gorgeous and really fun game. It's by Ninja Theory, who did like... Yeah, Ninja Theory did... they did... Hellblade, they've done, what was the other game? They've done Enslaved. I forgot the other games they've done, but they are really good at sort of creating these worlds that are really well realized and have like a really strong art direction. And that's what really is strong about this game is the art direction.
Is it fast paced like the original, or is it more slower combat?
It's a little bit slower than Devil May Cry 3 because Devil May Cry 3 was really fast paced and difficult. This is a little bit more slower and ground. I'd say it's closer to like Devil May Cry 1 speed. So it has like this overarching story that it's it's kind of like cheesy. It's whatever. I really don't care about the story so much. It still has the roots in like he's the son of Sparta, so he has like demon blood in him kind of thing. But it's almost grounded in reality where you fight this guy who's I think it's Mundus is the last boss in here, but he's almost looking like Kingpin or something from the Daredevil series.
Oh,
so it's weird. It's like a grounded reality Devil May Cry thing. But anyway, like the combat is just so fun, and I can understand people being critical of it. But then they released the definitive edition on PS4, so it's almost like a remaster of a reboot, and that tweaked some things that made the combat a little bit more fluid, a little bit more robust with more moves. And I think there's a little bit of a change in how you approach enemies with them. It's a really great game. I just wish more people played it, and I just think that people crap on this reboot because of the character design and the direction it took. And like you said, it didn't stick long because once this came out, it was just like, all right, we're not doing that again.
We're going to go to Devil May Cry 4.
Yeah, well, I think, no, Devil May Cry 4 was before this.
Really?
Yeah, Devil May Cry 4 was 2008.
Huh, I thought it was right after 3.
No, so 4 was almost like the end point, and then this was the reboot to that.
Yeah.
And then they almost kind of got a different reboot with Devil May Cry 5 in 2019. Yeah. And I love Devil May Cry 5, and that's like really the ultimate Devil May Cry game at this point. But DMC... great game, just unfairly crapped on. I just think it's so tragic that it's such a great action game and people just hate it because really it's Devil May Cry. It had been named something else, it probably wouldn't have been as hated on, you know?
Yeah, but it also would have been like another throwaway one. Maybe.
It could have been. It would have been a clone.
Yeah, they would have been like, oh, this is like Devil May Cry. I might as well go play that.
Yeah, I actually might play this again. I had the itch when I was typing this up. I was like, I kind of feel like playing that again for fun.
I have it because I think it was like a Games with Gold at some point. So
if it's the definitive version, definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Because the original game had this weird gimmick where you could switch weapons on the fly. Like, I don't know what they were. There's like an angel weapon that was blue and like an axe that was red. And you had to do the polar opposite color of the enemy you're fighting. So if they had like a red shield, you needed the blue weapon. And they eliminated that from the definitive edition because it does kind of suck that like you're confined to doing that, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more open in that respect. The combat's a little bit more open. So hopefully you have the definitive edition on there.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was, but I just remember I had it downloaded for the longest time, and then I never got into it for some reason. I was playing the other actual trilogy for a little while, and then I lost interest in both of those, and I had to remove it for space.
Oh, that's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah. This, it's like, you know, I would say play Devil May Cry 5 if you're going to play a Devil May Cry game that's recent.
Oh, yeah.
But definitely check this out, at least just to kind of see what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, like, I don't really enjoy this as much, but I could see what you're talking about to some extent.
Does PS Plus have the Devil May Cries in like 1, 2, or 3 in the past games?
No, because they still have the HD collection that you could buy for like, you know, it's always like on sale for $10 or something like that. So that's kind of taking the mantle of that. They haven't put the originals on there as far as I know. They might have Devil May Cry 4 on PS3 streaming. I don't know. I have to double check that though. I don't remember. All right, dude. So we could, I guess we get through a couple more. We got through quite a bit in this list here. So we'll go through a couple more. And we also have a bit of a reboot, remaster wish list.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Another one I will talk about. Actually, I'll combine these because we have talked about them before a long, long time ago in a podcast far away. This is the Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid 2 Samus Returns.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Metroid Zero Mission, I would put up there with the Resident Evil on GameCube, where it's like, this is how you do a remake to make it just accessible to the next generation.
And it's also the version you should play moving forward.
Yeah.
That's one thing, like, the NES Metroid, we talked about in the episode way back, but it's a really hard game to get into at all in 2025, 2024. It really in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
It does not age well at all. So Zero Mission is the perfect remake for that.
It tells the same story with a little bit of added punch so that it fits in with the series. And yeah, it's what you're used to if you've ever played Super Metroid or Metroid Fusion. And then Samus Returns... I mean, this is, you play this if you want to get ready for Dread. Yeah,
this one is it's weird because again, Metroid 2 Game Boy ages really poorly, I think. Like there's no map. It's really hard to keep track of Metroids. It's a great portable game for, 1991 where it came out, but it's not like a very fun game in 2025, like I said. I think that's also on the Switch app, right? Did they put that on there, right? I thought they did. I might be mistaken.
No, they might have. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Samus Returns one, I really liked it because I did finally finish it when we did the episode. I think it's good, and I think it's a good way to play Metroid 2. But I agree with you. It's not as good as like Zero Mission in my eyes. It's still a great remake of a game, but it's not like. It's not the pinnacle. Dread is that pinnacle for me.
Well, yeah, like I said, this gets you ready for Dread.
Yeah.
Story-wise and movement-wise. Like, this is talking about her, what would you call it? We
had the parry system.
The parries, yeah. And, yeah, this really sets you up for what Dread is going to be all about.
Exactly. I'd say those are worth playing as well. I know it sucks that the Samus Returns is a little bit hard to play because you need a 3DS. I know those are also getting more expensive as time goes on. I still think they're like $200 now if you want to pick one up, which is what they cost when they came out.
Yeah, right.
And that's just for a used one, So it's a little bit wild there. One game I'll talk about again, going back a little bit here, is Mega Man Maverick Hunter X.
Oh, I was thinking about this too.
Yeah. So this is a PSP remake of the Super Nintendo game. I really love the Super Nintendo game. That was our very first episode. And ironically, I think you and I played the idea of like remastering that episode of sorts.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, we should do a reboot. Or
Yeah, because it's been a couple years. We sound a little different, and things have changed for sure in 2 years. So I think it's funny we can narratively tie that together. But Mega Man Maverick Hunter X is a PSP remake. It has like 3D graphics, but it's like on the still 2D. And it kind of reworked some of the layouts of the levels as far as like where some of the upgrades are, which threw me off when I revisited this on my Steam Deck. I was like, oh yeah, the helmet is not where I thought it was. Like things are different, right? But it's just to me, it's a great remake of an amazing game. I don't think it touches the original game because it's just kind of. I feel like Mega Man X is really just like on a different wavelength of games, especially on the Super Nintendo.
I recently played it on your Steam Deck. I think while you were recording a different episode, and I hadn't played it too much on your PSP, but when I got it on the Steam Deck, you just have to get your in, like any Mega Man game. Once you beat that first boss, then you can just start chaining them together.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a little bit slower, but that allowed you to see the 3D work they did on the new graphics.
Yeah, it definitely was slower. Like I think, and that may be just because of it's a 3D game and I was running on PSP, so it probably maybe they didn't want the speed to be running any faster than that. Maybe it couldn't. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it definitely felt slower. But it still felt like Mega Man X. It just felt like, a slower version of that game. I don't know how people perceive this game. I thought it was fantastic for the time. And the music is awesome, too. Like, they remixed all of the music. It's all, like, just heavy guitar metal, which obviously just speaks to me more than anything. And I thought all the remixes were really, really good.
It would have been great if it led into, like, remaking 2 and 3.
I wish, because I think those would be interesting to see remade. And it sucks because, again, this is locked to the PSP. I don't think you can even get it on the PS3 store, even though it's, I know it's like available, but there's not many games on it left as far as like the classic ones.
Yeah.
So this is kind of lost to time at this point. Like it was released, I think 2006, 2007. And I don't know if it's ever going to come out. I would love for Capcom to re-release it in some way. And actually, I wish they had re-released it when they had the Mega Man X collection. Like that would have been the perfect time for it, just include as like a bonus game. Because it's still a pretty faithful remake to the original game. It's got a totally different style to it, different feel. But it's still a great game. It's just not Mega Man X, and nothing is Mega Man X.
In fact, you should try out that Mega Man X I showed you.
I know. I gotta try. I really got into those. I really have to get in more of those ROM hacks you send because I love Mega Man X is like an easy game for me.
Yeah.
So like anytime there's something that modifies or makes it more difficult, I'm like, okay, I could try this. I may be able to get through this.
Yeah, it's not like Kaizo hard, but it looks like it could finally give you a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Give me a refresh.
Yeah. I will go into one that I didn't think about at first, but then I realized, wait, yeah, this is definitely like a remake, reboot, you could say, and that is Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu.
Oh yeah, I'd say that's a what is it, reboots? Remake?
Yeah, right.
It's a weird one
because it is exactly the original game, the first generation. It's kind of like Pokemon Yellow, where you start out with Pikachu or Eevee if you get that version. And then you just go around, and what they did was they implemented Pokemon Go, because that was big at the time, just released. So you don't have to grind and fight the Pokemon in the grass. You just walk up to them and try to catch them. But you still have to do all the same sort of strategy when it comes to fighting other trainers, fighting the gym leaders, and trying to get like the... what do they call it? The mythic ones, the legendaries.
The legendaries, yes,
yeah.
yes.
And I really liked that they simplified things where like your team now gets the XP when you catch. It shares amongst everybody. You don't have to do the swap out.
You really don't know how valuable that is until you've gone to like one of the old games. You're like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it made it quicker. It makes it more accessible in a modern age where like I can have something on in the background, but I also feel like I'm making progress because I'm not just sitting there trying to grind levels.
Exactly. I think that's really why they streamlined it, because it did suck when you're sitting there having to start with your weaker Pokemon, swap it out immediately, right? It's just a cheap way to get XP, but it's not fun.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said in past episodes, I've gotten the furthest I've ever gotten in one of the original Pokemon games, and it's all thanks to just being this more accessible game and quicker paced and everything, but I still feel like it's got that strategy that you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I still have to try that one out. I know as we get on with Pokemon games, there's just more that come out. And I'm like, I should try that out. And it's been like 6 years where it's been. Yeah. The last one I'll talk about here, this one was really important to me at the time in 2008. I played this literally every single night for, I don't know, years. And Randy got to play this one with me a lot too. This is where I think Randy shaped up his skills. And this is Super Street Fighter 2 HD Remix.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so this is a
hyper turbo fighting. Whatever.
Essentially, yeah, Alpha.
Every name you could slap on it.
Yeah, so this is weird because it is kind of a remake in a sense because it did have a classic version where it had the classic 16-bit graphics, but they redid all the graphics in here with the studio Udon, and everything looks gorgeous. Like these look like straight out of like an animated movie or something. Like all the sprites look amazing. They're well animated now. They kind of like refreshed everything, and also they rebalanced it, which may matter to some people more than others because it does feel like a different game. But there's still original Super Chobo if you want the original experience on there. But this was online, so I played this nonstop, like every single night when I get home from work or school or college, whatever. I was playing HD Remix. Randy would sometimes get on with me, and like we just sit there for like hours. Because what we would do is we would go through and be like, okay, whoever can get the one win with each character, that's how we kind of like do our little gimmick there. I usually would win because there's some characters that he wasn't experienced with. But I feel like this is where Randy really got to learn Street Fighter better because we were just like sparring basically over and over. So for me, this was a really significant remake, reboot. I'm going to call it a reboot because it's still Street Fighter 2 in some way. But it was gorgeous at the time. I wish they would re-release it. It's never going to happen, unfortunately. I did try to go online, like, I don't know, a couple years ago, and, like, obviously no one was on. Because it's just, was it 16, 17-year-old game at this point? But this one was significant for a lot of reasons, so I had to put this on my list for remasters.
I thought about this when we first mentioned this episode, and, I mean, I suck at that game, but it came to mind because I remember I really enjoyed looking at it. Like,
yeah,
I even picked it up. I spent the money on it and downloaded it and everything. And I would play, I maybe played a couple matches online, won one, lost one, and then I was like, screw this. And even when I do the solo fighting, I always get stuck at T-Hawk. But up until that point, it looks gorgeous. And and it stuck in my brain for that.
And the music's really great too. They had a lot of remix tunes from a lot of the fans, I think it was, like from OC Remix or something like that. Like just took some of the cream of the crop there. And it was just a really great package for a remake. And I know Street Fighter is obviously, like anything else, has been re-released billions of times. Yeah. And this one was a more significant one because it felt like that was really different in a lot of ways, both because of how they rebalanced it and just, again, like the overall aesthetic look. Like it just looked like all the Nintendo Power pages and all the concept artwork or whatever else. Now that was what the game looked like, right? Yeah. It wasn't like this pixelated, sprite thing. It looked like it came straight off the pages of a magazine. It's really great.
It's funny now that a lot of fighters, like that Marvel one that's coming out,
Tokon Spirits,
is like trying to reach that comic level aesthetic.
It looks like it too. I saw more of that at Evo, like they had more gameplay, and it looks amazing. It looks like a comic book come to life. It's really incredible.
Yep.
All right, Deuce, you want to get to, we got another one or two? What do you feel? Here?
No, I was going to move over to the wish list.
You want to go to the wish list?
Yeah.
All right. So we did put together a little bit of a wish list.
Hopes and prayers here.
Yeah, hopes and prayers. These are things that we're going to put out in the universe that we've already been putting out in the universe. But, this would be really fun. If anyone else out there has some ideas that they want to have rebooted, let us know because ultimately it's great to have the remasters we have, but there's a lot of games that we wish would get remastered, and that's kind of where we put this list together.
Also, let us know about the games, the remasters that you have played, or the reboots and stuff.
Yeah, because there's stuff we've missed. Like we play a lot, especially I play a lot, but there's tons of stuff we just have not touched.
There's stuff we put on our list and didn't talk about, and then there's stuff that we just forgot about.
Yeah, we could be here for like another 2 hours. Yeah, but we're
gonna have a multi-part episode.
Yeah, we'll do a reboot of the remasters.
But the wish list I wanted, and I've talked about this before on a previous episode, is that Metal Gear 1 and 2, the originals.
The MSX ones.
Yeah.
I just posted about this, how Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence include the first translations or translated versions of the original games, but they're locked to Subsistence, and I think maybe the HD remaster has them. I can't remember. I think they are on the Legacy Collection, actually.
Yeah.
But those are still games that are rooted in late 1980s, right? Yep. They're still from that time. So I agree with you. This should be remade in some way.
That reviewer I was watching, he pointed out that Metal Gear Solid takes a lot from Metal Gear 2.
It does, yeah.
And so it would be easy to just transfer over what we've already known from the Solid series and put it back into the origins of the entire franchise.
Yeah, I would love for them to do that for sure. I'll go with mine here. Actually, I'll kind of go through them quickly here because mine are, it's like, I mean, there's only so much I gotta say about them, I guess. So the first one I put on my list is Beautiful Joe. I love this game on the GameCube so much. The sequel is really good, but I primarily have fondness for the first game. It was just such an amazing comic book looking game. It was cel shaded.
I would want that to stay that way though.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't do like the Maverick Hunter treatment on it.
No. Like I would love a more vivid. Again, they could totally just remaster it at this point because it still would hold up. Like the art style so strong in there. It was just really hard. You had these really great powers of like slow mo again, which was of the time.
Yeah.
But you can control it. You could fast forward things. So like certain animations would speed up and would get past certain obstacles. Just a really thoughtful, really amazing game that does not get enough love for what it is. I would love a remaster of Maximo.
Yep.
I would love some sort of sequel to that, and also Shinobi. I didn't get to talk about that. The PS2 era Shinobi, Comic Zone from the Genesis.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
the quality of life would be just making it playable and
checkpoints.
Beatable.
Yeah. Like this game, it sucks because this is also one of those guilty pleasure games for me where I love how the game looks, and back then there was really nothing that looked like it at all. It was straight, literally on like off the pages of a comic. Like you're going through panels so much that he's literally breaking the fourth wall. Where like he's using the edges of the panel to go into the next panel. But this game was brutally difficult. It's hard to control. The jumps are insane. Like the first jump in the first level, you'll probably get game over just trying to traverse because it's such a huge gap.
And there's no continues, right?
So once you die, you start the whole game over again.
Oh my god.
So this was just a problematic game to begin with.
Yeah, whose bright idea was that?
Yeah, and going in line with like Beautiful Joe, this game really just needs like a full-on remake, probably by the Streets of Rage team or the Ninja Gaiden team, right? Just let them run free with it because I bet they would totally nail this thing. SSX Tricky, one of my favorite SSX games ever, one of my favorite PS2 games ever.
Really, just reboot SSX in some way.
Yeah, because they did do a reboot in 2012. That was just called SSX.
Oh, yeah.
But I wasn't so big on that because they kind of did the open world thing, the open mountain thing, and that kind of sucked when you're going towards the bottom of the mountain. It's like, well, you can't go up. You went down, so let me fast travel up there, right?
Yeah.
So just give me the arcade format where it's like I go through these events, go through these levels, and do this and that, right?
For sure.
And then another kind of a not so obscure one, but one that is just going to get lost of time because it costs $1,500 right now.
Jesus.
Panzer Dragoon Saga on the Sega Saturn. Panzer Dragoon is this on rails shooting series. I really loved 1, 2, and Orta on the Xbox because just the rail shooters. They're pretty basic. They're almost like Star Fox on dragons is really what it is. But Saga is an RPG, so it took that format and there's like turn-based combat. I've heard it's really great. I've seen videos of it. It's just I guess supposedly there's less than 30,000 copies in existence. It's everything centers expensive for the most part, and this is like one of the rarest. Like I said, a complete copy is like $1,500 to $2,000. So no one's gonna play this.
This is the last game you ever get.
This is the last game you'll get
in your collection.
Exactly. It's like I have nothing but Panzer Dragoon Saga. Yeah.
Saving it up for months for that.
Yeah. So just there's one game on my list, but I'll let you take that one because we both have this on our list because we've been asking you for it since the Resident Evil 2 remakes as well.
That's true. This will lead into the rest of my list, but we both want Resident Evil Code Veronica.
It's time, for God's sake.
I mean, you hear whispers and rumors, which I think bodes well because, like we said, Resident Evil 2 was whispers and rumors for the longest time, and then it came true. So Code Veronica has to be out there somewhere floating around.
It's got to be because there's also people guessing that maybe, I think, was it Zero that they might get a remake or something like that, right? And it's like that doesn't need it. That got a remaster, which is perfectly sufficient. It's just the GameCube version ported up, right?
I would want a remake of Zero as well if they don't do the item dropping system, if they retool that.
I would love a remake of Zero after Code Veronica.
Yeah.
That's the whole my whole point there. It's like,
do 5 next.
Yeah, don't do 5. I want Code Veronica.
And if you do 6, remake it from the ground up.
Yeah, because Code Veronica, like we did a whole episode on it as well, and I'm sure we talked about why we want to remake then too, because this one does kind of age the worst because there's like an HD version that's on Xbox and PS, it's on PS5 and whatever, but it's still a 2001 game, so it feels the most dated because it's still in that early era Resident Evil. It's not even quite like the level of the RE remake.
I picked it up again when we were doing that episode back then, and it was surprising that I slipped right back into the tank controls. I was like, wow, this is great. But I do remember that I played with a strategy guide back then.
Oh, me too.
And if you don't, it's going to be very difficult because it was already the hardest of the originals. And now without all the help and thinking that it's a modern game when it isn't, you're gonna get stuck.
Exactly. Like if you die, there's no checkpoint. It's you go back to that last save, which hopefully you saved recently.
Ammo is limited, and it doesn't just spawn from enemies. Like whatever is in there is in there.
Yeah, it's fixed.
Yeah,
exactly. So this one, if anything, like if I was to order this list, that'd be number one.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's why it was up there at the top with Metal Gear for me. The rest of my list just sort of came to me in a dream, but like I talked about DuckTales, and everybody loves the DuckTales game for Nintendo. They talk about that the most. And I was so happy when there was the Disney Afternoon Collection, because those were all the games that I played back then, and not a lot of other people owned. Like, they might have owned DuckTales, but they didn't own Chip and Dale. They didn't own Tailspin.
Yeah, you usually had one or the other, because again, like you can only afford so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had, the first 4. I never got the sequels. I only played those later in the collection. But if they did a remake like they did with DuckTales, where it's the cartoony graphics, and now we're getting Chip and Dale, I mean, if you want, either get the original voice actors if they're available, or get the ones from that recent movie with like Andy Samberg and what's his name, John Mulaney. Mm-hmm. That'd be awesome. But like, if we could have that, if we could have the Tailspin remake in a cartoony way, or Darkwing Duck, which was basically Mega Man, like that would be awesome for me to have those redone with the same love that DuckTales got. Mm-hmm. I'm also thinking of the Rainbow Six series, and not the most recent ones like Siege and all those.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Those are just your typical shooters like everything else. I want planning out your strategy on little 3D blueprints of the buildings.
Yeah, tactical Rainbow Six.
Yes, and with the modern updated graphics, just give me that.
How cool of a gimmick would it be like if they had some sort of co-op mode where it's like one player, like they can't necessarily see what you're doing, right? Let's say you're playing online and you're at the home base, so to speak, kind of guiding everyone through.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like how awesome an online feature would that be where it's like...
You're the man in the chair.
Yeah, like you got the map and you're like, hey, there might be like some terrorists in here, blah, blah, blah. Like that would be a really great dynamic, but also just have that co-op as well, just the OG Rainbow Six experience. Because you and I always talk about that. It's like every time we see like a Rainbow Six ad or something, we're like, God, like I really would like to have Rogue Spear back or something.
Yep.
You know, like I just want a game to do that exact format all over again.
We really have to hook up the ports from like PlayStation or N64, because those finally had co-op that we could do, and it still had the planning from the PC version.
Yes, I do have. Well, I do have them on Dreamcast and N64, so
yeah,
we do have the option. Yeah.
And last but not least, everybody wanted a third game of this, but I would be okay with remakes of 1 and 2, and that's Half-Life.
Well, there is technically a remake of Half-Life 1.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's called Black Mesa, and it's interesting because this was a fan remake that started off as like a fan project, and then Valve saw it and was like, oh, you guys are doing some amazing work. How about we just let you release it, on Steam and be a big deal?
God,
so,
if only Nintendo would take the hint.
Sega and Valve, yeah. So, but I understand, like you're saying, like there should be like it should be ported, or it should be released on more consoles, because Black Mesa is a really great remake. Like I think it streamlines some things. Like I know towards the end, like it gets kind of crazy with like the alien stuff.
Yeah,
and they streamline some of that. I'll have to show you because it's really good. I do have an issue with it where it's like my saves don't properly save, so I have to restart levels. But there's a remake of that, and then for 2, I think we do need a remake of 2 though.
Yes, yeah, because I mean it holds up still. It's great to still go back and play, but it would be great if you threw on a new coat of paint or give it the old Resident Evil treatment or something, and
that would be really cool.
Make it like crazy, like spooky with the aliens coming at you and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Orange Box remastered. I really like that idea. Even though, I think they haven't done poorly either, I guess, so they could remaster the whole thing.
Dude, if you do all of the Orange Box remastered, think of how much money they could make with like a remaster of Team Fortress.
Well, they don't need to, because Team Fortress still makes a ton of money off these freaking cosmetic hats and whatnot.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I always think like Team Fortress 2 is dead, and I see some articles saying like, yeah, someone bought $500 for a hat. I was like, what?
Yeah.
That game's still around and people are paying for it?
Right? I guess that's like Counter-Strike too.
Yeah, Counter-Strike finally got sort of a sequel as well, but yeah, it's a wild time with Team Fortress and Counter-Strike, I would say. Yeah. All right, Juicy. Well, we made it through another fun-filled episode. We went pretty good while in there. We got a lot of remakes, remasters, and reboots in there. So if anyone out there listening is still listening with us, please reach out to us by email at LegionGamingPod@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Legion Gaming Podcast, and we're also on BlueSky at LegionGamingPod.Bsky.Social. Dusey, any final words for our friends who are going to be remastered, rebooted, or remade?
Press start to reset.